Before starting our WREC matches this week, we want to take a moment and acknowledge the escalating war in Ukraine. Our thoughts are with our fans, teams, players, and everybody around the world affected during the uncertain times. And Riot Games is supporting and donating to the International Medical Corps. Check out riot.com/donate and join us in our efforts to help the IMC's teams inside Ukraine who are responding to the war by expanding access to medical and mental health services for those living in the affected communities. For those joining us today for this afternoon's broadcast, we hope the show can provide you with some brief solace. And the broadcast team and those involved in the WREC send their love to each and every one of you. Welcome everybody to Saturday of week 4 of the WREC, and things are heating up through the upper bracket. From yesterday's games, we had WREC and Na'Vi facing off, and I mean, everybody had predicted, other than me, that WREC would win, and they did eventually close things out 2-0, but Na'Vi made them work for it in the first game. Na'Vi basically only dropping an Elder Dragon buff that shattered Na'Vi's hopes as WREC would be able to bounce back, utilizing Doom's Ziggs to great effect through that Dragon lane. And WREC looking very strong through the second game as well, closing things out 2-0 over Na'Vi. Our second series of the day was a little less close as Formulation would team fight their way past Team Dark in incredibly strong fashion with their teamfight style we've come to know and love. We will be seeing our lower bracket teams take to the Rift once again today, and let's get into it.
Welcome to the official Riot Games Wild Rift EMEA Championship.
Everybody round, we know we get hype. Everybody round, everybody round, everybody round, everybody round.
Welcome to Saturday of week 4 of the WREC. I'm Stress, joined by Carmeline and Stuart once again for hopefully more amazing games. We've had so many back-to-back days of incredible games. I'm hoping we'll continue the trend. Carmeline, we're heading into the lower bracket again today. What's your big thing that you're looking for this weekend?
Well, for this weekend and for today specifically, since we're on the lower bracket, I hope to see these teams finally popping because many of them went out from the upper bracket with a 2-0. So I'm hoping to see a 2-1 perhaps.
Hopefully some more 2-1s. Stuart, yesterday we rounded up our top 8 of the upper bracket. Formulation and WREC advancing, as we said. These matchups coming up, Viv against Gamelord and WREC versus Formulation, those are too close to call.
They're way too close to call. Both these games are so close, and I think there's a little bit of an edge on WREC and Gamelord, but to be fair, Viv and Formulation, they've surprised a lot of people, and they're definitely the dark horses as well. Yeah,
they have indeed. Some of the teams we were expecting, whereas in the lower bracket, there are some big names down here as well as, of course, Team Queso and Na'Vi were unlucky in their games. They, of course, will be taking on some of the teams that advanced in their previous week's games. You've, of course, got a lot of matchups still to play out in the lower bracket in that double elimination format. So when we look at today's games and tomorrow's, so we're all focused on the lower bracket. Some pretty interesting games here, of course, starting the day with Team Dark versus Weiger's, Na'Vi against Aphelion. Then we go to Queso and Blows, which unfortunately means, Carmeline, one of your teams is going to have to eliminate the other.
That's so unfair, you know.
Tragedy.
When I see this, I'm like, which team am I supposed to choose? Do I have to divide my heart for this? Is this what you're asking me to do?
Gonna have to flip a coin, however you actually want to decide it. So some important series coming up, and we're hyped for the series. We are looking forward to seeing who's going to get out ahead. We've been predicting. I've been throwing a few curveball predictions, which I know that people didn't buy from me yesterday on WREC when I was predicting Na'Vi to win. I was so close, I thought with that game 1 it was going to go so well. However, today I think a little bit more split. Some focus on Dark from Hells and Excalibur. They're holding on hope. But Stuart, we felt like Team Dark yesterday kind of underperformed a little bit. And for at least me, that's why I put my vote towards Weiger's today.
Yeah, definitely. I think Weigers looked really, really strong in their lower bracket game before against Principality, and Team Dog really disappointed me yesterday. I was casting that game yesterday with Excoundrel, and I feel like their drafting and everything as well was just a little bit lackluster, to be honest. And in the game as well, it kind of felt a bit all over the place, and it felt like the communication wasn't there as well. So I'll be interested to see how they bounce back in today's first series.
I know it's not just you that'll be looking at that, but our community as a whole as well. Remember, you can get your tweets focused and picked up by us on broadcast by using the hashtag WREC. So let's take a look at what the community are talking about as we come into today's games. There's been a lot of discussion in general, obviously with the ongoing situation. This is something we wanted to mention earlier today. The WREC put out a tweet. Essentially, after careful consideration, the CIS group has been discontinued for Season 1. We don't have any further updates here on what that means other than the fact that EU and Turkey group play will continue as planned. So when we do have more to give you on that, we will report back. So, important news. From important news to Formulation celebrating their Wombo combo. I love the way Formulation play with their big team fight style, the Seraphine bot lane carry. I'm hoping we get to see more of that. Any other of those mages? Oh, okay. Speaking of mages, Snitch is just rubbing it in. I kind of jumped off my chair when I saw that steal yesterday. But Carmeline, like I know you and I weren't casting on yesterday's broadcast, but that Infernal steal might be the biggest moment we've had so far in Europe.
I missed it. I mean, hopefully today won't be missing any of those plays, and tomorrow's casters will have to be like, I wasn't there to watch it and cast it. Maybe?
Well, the funny thing is, Carmeline, you missed it, Vex missed it, and for that I'm talking about the Smite. And unfortunately, that means Navi ended up dropping the series. No. Navi, I had it for you. I was trying to vote for you. Stuart, I know you're going to get ready for the rest of today's broadcast, so we'll let you head off as Carmeline and I jump into some more of our news and topics that we wanted to talk about coming into today. I think the best place for us to start really is that, we have a top 4 in the top side of the bracket. We now have 2 more Titans going down into the lower bracket, and I think we're really starting to see how these teams, like, there's not a lot of room for only one team to come out of this bracket to actually advance to the finals. I feel like it's so close across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at all these teams that have made it to the lower bracket, if you just take the lower bracket and isolate it, it could lend itself to quite a good playoffs setting already. But turns out only some of those teams will make it, because the others will be eliminated today, and tomorrow, which is this unbelievable and kind of sad to be honest to soon go.
It is a little bit sad, and it was WREC and Formulation. We've already talked about it a number of times. Let's watch some of the highlights and the tragic nature of how this game went. I think we saw a lot of really strong team fighting yesterday, and it's such an important part of the game right now, where we see a lot of these mages, we see a lot of the bruises that can have that impact across multiple team fights. But I feel like this is the edge for a team like Formulation, maybe even over WREC's, where I actually felt like Formulation's team fighting is the strongest we have in the league. How do you feel about that statement?
I don't feel the same way. I don't know, there's something about Formulation that doesn't quite sell it for me.
Interesting. Okay.
Maybe it is because I feel like they haven't reached their full potential, but I feel like, in my opinion, from my point of view, WREC's .2 will be the biggest one. The best one, if that is.
Well, we're just going to have to find out as they play more games. I think one thing that Formulation do really well is when we're talking about teamfight mages, they bring us something different. In the past, we've seen the Galio come through. Yesterday, we saw Seraphine 2 games in a row. What else is in this bag of tricks, do you think, for bot lane mages that we haven't seen already?
Well, maybe those bot lane mages, we'll see how long they last, because if you compared it between each week about these kind of champions, you can see how they've been played more and more. But I feel like they're also rotating towards the mid lane rather than just taking the top lane plays as they used to. So we'll see, because teams seem to be bringing back the AD carries.
Well, we'll see whether the AD carries take a place back in the meta. We've seen them start creeping back in with the Kai'Sa and the likes of the tank-killing AD carry. So I enjoy AD carries being played in that bot lane role as a bot lane player myself most of the time. I'm like, I just want to play AD carries and then hit people from a distance. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether the meta will shift. We have seen it a little bit. I want to hear from Stuart on what his thoughts are coming into our first series of the day. So Stuart, what have you got for us?
Thank you very much, Stress. Yes, so I'm going to be deep in a little bit deeper into our first series, which is Team Dark against Wigers. And we've got to talk about the bounce. Already mentioned briefly already, but Team Dark was very disappointing for most of us on the desk yesterday and for today as well. So they're going to try and look to bounce back today against a very, very strong Wigers squad. Now, take a little bit deeper look at Team Dark. Their drafts yesterday were very focused on their comfortability and kind of not really focusing on the meta itself. We saw 2 games of Kha'Zix. We saw these different champions that we haven't seen before, and it's more focused on Team Dark just being more comfortable with the champions that they want to play. But I want to see something different from them. I want to see how the flexibility of the draft is going to change. And then for Wigers as well, kind of the complete opposite of Team Dark, to be honest with you. Wigers played 10 unique champions in their game versus Principality, and they looked really, really dominant against Principality as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting how these two teams match up together. You got Team Dark, who likes to focus on more comfort champions, whereas Wigers, they like a bit of flexibility. Again, 10 unique champions. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how these two teams match up against each other. It's going to be an exciting one. Back to Stress and Calm line to get us closer to game number 1.
Thank you, Stuart. We are just getting ready for the game. Let's take a look, first of all, at the rosters between Team Dark and Wigers. So it has been a little amount of time since we've seen Wigers specifically. Of course, you saw Team Dark on break yesterday. So a reminder of all of the players. And it's Elegy, Sync, Shin-Si, I can never remember how we're supposed to pronounce that. Mario and Juicy for Team Dark. Extreme, Fowlan, Michele, Zero, and Round. And I probably messed up a bunch of names again, but nevertheless, it's all good. Team Dark versus Wigers. I think this kind of for me is a test for Team Dark because we were expecting more out of them yesterday. And I think if they don't put up more of a fight today, I think it'll be a bit of a disappointment compared to where people had their expectations after that we saw them in the first round.
Absolutely, because if you think about it, Team Dark, for me, I didn't have many expectations for them. I was like, okay, let's see how they perform. They've made it so far that for them to lose today would be such a disappointment. Now, if you think about Wigers, it was kind of the opposite. It's also true that they've had to face Spanish teams along the way, like Principality last week, which is, again, a little bit disappointing. I've seen how they performed in the Spanish League. It was kind of hinting at how they will end up, winning today. But I'm really excited to see if that's the case, if they can make it any farther, which I truly hope so.
Well, we are in to pick some bands. Hey. The patch we are on is the same one you're on live. It's 3.0.B. And that means we're kind of expecting Yuumi. We didn't see Yuumi so much in the second series. A couple of bands here and there. Last week, we saw the Yuumi-Olaf combination come out from Team Queso, which I had a lot of fun commentating. And Olaf is off the board as well. Yesterday, Olaf was flexed over into the solo lane and basically got a ton of kills for, I think that was Na'Vi played it. But we're seeing a lot of presence towards Olaf, Fiora, and Galio as well taken off the board for game 1.
Yeah, champions that have been flexed by both of these teams in different lanes instead. Olaf has been played by Elegy in the past. Zed as well is a pick that can be really flexible in terms of, do we take it bot lane, do we take it support, do I want to keep it in the top lane? So once again, going to be taken off the map, but keep into account that several champions have been played by these teams that are not being banned just yet, such as the Six, the Corki. Even if you think about it, champions like Garen are still open, so many things to choose from.
Yeah, lots of those power picks open. Yuumi is still available. Jace is up. Camille still available. Diana, who has seen some bans. I think Corki's a big one that you mentioned there. Kha'Zix is actually going to be the ban. So we saw Sync playing yesterday. I feel like Sync struggled a little bit to get footing on the game at times. So Kha'Zix being removed away from Sync as well is going to leave us with Gragas. That's a big flex pick left available that we didn't pick up on yet.
Okay, there we go. I mean, you still have Camille on the rift if you want to say if the enemy team decides to choose it. WREC can be a great disengager for those kind of champions. But no, instead, Warga's going to be signed off with Jace, champion that they've chosen to go with. They've used it several times as well during their camp positions. I'm very excited to see what they decide to take it. Mid lane perhaps could be an option.
Yeah, Jace and Garen picked up here, so there are a few different options available where that Jace is going. Of course, we have seen Jace in the jungle as well. Just to put it out there, some people have been trying to play Garen Yuumi in the bottom lane, and Yuumi is available. So there is a secondary flex here if they want to do it. It would, of course, depend on their follow-up. Irelia picked up. That's a matchup that we've seen into Jace a number of times. Irelia just basically concedes the early game and then says, okay, I'll fight you after I've got my ult. Generally does quite well for Irelia the later the game goes.
You should be doing well. Oh my god, okay, Darius couldn't be missing this game. We've seen it all across every single game of every single series. It's a champion that cannot miss any games at all. A bruiser doing lots of damage and not being nerfed. So I think that's a reasonable reason for him to be picked.
And that leaves us in a situation where it's likely that Gragas is going to be in that support role. We have seen it, of course, out of the jungle from time to time, but Wigers want to say, no, we're not going to let you have a strong early game jungle in the side of Lee Sin. Jarvan taken off the board as well, as that won't be available for Fowland. So we're really starting to hit the jungle pool. When you look at it, like Olaf, Jarvan, Kha'Zix, Lee, Fiora, and Set can jungle as well. So we are diving really deep if that Jace and Gragas are not in the jungle role.
Oh. Okay, now this is a personal attack. Zone have been taken on board. Why? Okay, you watched yesterday's games and you were like, okay, no, thank you, I don't want to face this ever again. That's not something I want to be doing. But it was usually the one who was playing this champion. So, I mean, I feel personally attacked by this. But okay, I have to buy it. Okay.
And I didn't feel like the Sona was amazingly strong yesterday. That's a Senna picked up. That's going to be fasting Senna alongside Ziggs in that bottom lane. So going for very ranged, apart from the Garen so far from Wigers. Of course, Garen being melee range. Oh, it's been my favorite champion in this entire game is Ashe, because I think when she's in a situation that she is not underpowered, her team fighting and utility is basically unmatched from the carry role. And that's a Seraphine on top of it. So all about getting fights started and getting going. And the Riven picked up from the side of Wigers. That's a lot of information to take in at the end.
Okay, so on one hand, as you mentioned, you've got the Ashe and Seraphine ready with the heals, the shields. I mean, with all the CC you've talked about. But on the other hand, you've got the Riven, which also has a shield. And I'm honestly saying two very different compositions and different to what expected, because when you watch the games for both of these teams, you could even get the conclusion that they are kind of similar when it comes to drafting a stage list. And then you get here and you're like, wait a second, what is this? So for Team Dark, it is quite clear, right? You've got the engage with the Seraphine, you've got the engage with the Ashe with that ultimate, then you've got the damage in Darius, and of course Vanwood's Edge and Irelia. So really good setup for team fights. Now, if you look at Wargads, you've got loads of range and stakes, for example, on Xena, especially as levels go up. But you again got Garen as well. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, the AP kind of missing here for Wargads. How are they going to play this? Well, who are they going to put the emphasis on to carry this entire series? I believe in Wargads. I voted for them in the predictions. Now, I like more Team Dark's composition.
Yeah, I kind of see that Team Dark's comp is just like that. We're going to go in, we're going to go aggressive, get the fight started. Yeah. Yesterday, they struggled against Formulation because Formulation were playing things like Nunu and actually denying the engage. This time around, I don't know that there's so good disengage, and it's actually a swap around from what we were expecting. We were expecting it to be Garen in one of the solo lanes. It's actually Garen with the fasting Senna bottom lane. So we've seen this type of thing before. We have seen this lane exactly before, if I remember correctly, all the way back to last year's games. So it's not out of the ordinary from what we've seen. However, this is one area that maybe Ash can have a little bit of prominence. that is a heavy fan vote going towards Team Dark. This normally backfires. Whenever it's like 90%, they always lose.
Stop the disrespect, please. Okay. Why does it make it so far just for you to vote, just for 6% of people to vote for them? But anyways, stress. I'm not gonna get stressed out by this. I know they can win. So why don't we take a look at what's happening here in this bot lane? We've got a heal. We've got double ignite. For different lanes of Seraphine and Garen, respectively. So you can clearly see that the aggression is going to be amazing and incredible from the very beginning. Also, take a look at this. We could have an initiation here. Oh no, the minefield preventing
a little bit of
an
attempt to engage through the middle lane. The bottom lane, I've played not directly Ash into Garen a lot, but I find like Ash, if Garen gets on you, Ash kind of like dies really quickly. So I wonder how that's going to go. Is there's a 4-person dive attempt happening in bottom lane? Sync is going to be able to close the gap, but doesn't have his ultimate, so can't actually get the fight started. Yeah. No ultimates means it's really hard for Dark to actually take this, and you can see that Michele has come down to the bottom lane as well. That's a great stun though already out from Seraphine, but Zero's managed to cut a lot of the wave in this bottom lane and kind of push things. So little odd start, but they're trying to focus out this Garen and stop him from farming as much as they can in the early game already.
Which is a really good idea, all things considered. Although no summoners wasted during that little skirmish, which is okay, you know, as you said, no ultimate assist yet, mean that you're not gonna be facing that issue just now. But look at it. I mean, the aggression potential from Seraphine plus Asher, all the range they got to bring. Of course, they're going to be keeping Garen away from farming. And particularly, I'm having my eyes on this lane, on this mid lane between Aurelia and Ziggs. We were debating whether Ziggs was going to go bot lane. In the end, it wasn't the case, but he's got Barrier just ready in case Aurelia starts doing anything, you know. It's really good. It's a really good summoner spell in this kind of situation. Not always used. Some mid laners prefer to use Ignite, for example, like in the case of One Mid, in this case of Quincy. But yeah, I really like the choice in here. And you can already see the first roamings around the map with Seraphine rotating towards the mid lane to help out a little bit there. Also quite important, the vision that they're going to have to establish all around the map. You can see the beginnings of it in the tree bash in top lane by both teams. So these are going to be the key points for me, the victory conditions for both of them.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on those win conditions and looking whether that's how the game is going to close out. We've got neutral objectives coming up in a few minutes, well, in a few seconds, I should say, as they are swapping both bot laners to the middle lane. Everybody's focusing up towards Rift Herald, though. This is going to be a big first fight here as Fowlin has been apprehended. There's the Crystalline Arrow. It's going to set up the first kill of the game for LG. Doesn't, unfortunately, get the reset for him, as they would have loved to have had that as so close to getting a second one for Extreme as he was ticking down. If that execute had been available, that certainly would have been a second kill, but that is a good start from this team fighting composition now from Team Dark.
You've left Extreme without his summoner spells. We've left him without the ultimate. That's going to make it so difficult for him to go back and try to farm and recover a little bit of what's been lost in this little bit of a team fight. We can see the replay right here, how he started it out with two Warg's members here, and even more as they arrived. But the ultimate by Asher was just amazing. The volley to keep it going, and the damage was just incredible on top of Extreme, who had to retreat immediately. Now, they can take the dragon, but the Herald has already been taken by Team Dark.
So, big trade of objectives there.
Yeah.
And basically going to just start the game for Dark in the way that they can siege up mid tower. Look to maybe prioritize dragons a little bit later on in the game. This composition has a pretty good ability to get fights started, and also you can never overlook Ash's ability to kind of like secure areas of vision with that the arrow, her third ability that will kind of spot out anywhere that they need it to. In goes the Gragas looking for the engagement. Very, very squishy to start. They trade the tower for Gragas's life, and not the cleanest thing from Sync there behind the tower.
No, but instead, Wargers are going to take this time to rotate towards the mid lane. They've got Dragon in their hands already. They didn't have the Herald, but they know they can't use it anywhere. Elegy, no!
Oh, Elegy is going to drop behind the tower and will end up falling. Does get rooted. Perfect follow-up from Seraphine. Is going to at least trade the kill back. And something I wanted to bring up that I've noticed. And so I said I play a lot of Ashe. I generally don't do this build on Ashe, and I don't know whether it's a new one or whether it's just something I haven't seen. We'll talk about it after the replay, but that was a pretty easy pickup and a great stun. Font of Life is the rune of choice that has been taken by Mario, and I can see where it's going because like there was a build in PC League based around Imperial Mandate, and you basically just heal up a ton. Off your target. So I actually now want to try this Ashe build. I always end up going like Conqueror. So it's just interesting to me that we're having a different flavor where it's based a little bit more around that. Here's the engage. They're going to go aggressive. Force out the Senna ultimate. Can't quite close the gap for the kill. And that means for now, Fallon is going to be able to get there in time. There's damage down. Zero stays alive. And again, Sync is overreached. It's another kill on to that Gragas.
So there was something interesting going on in here where Senna's ultimate was able to push teammate outside Vanguard's edge, which was really useful in this case because they were able to turn things around. But of course, you lose your tower, the second one of the game for your team. You get the chance to take this one top lane, just, you know, since you didn't have an enemy top lane that right now to contest it. But this means that Team Dark are going to be able to read what you're doing right now. You've got Inferno Dragon coming up. They've got to control the inferior lane of the map. They've got the control of that riverside. So I think this is a good time not only to retreat and rethink how you're going to go about things, but also get that good vision going. You've got Seraphine roaming around because Wargers right now, look at it. The interior Herald surrounding zone is controlled by them with the many wards they've gone there. And, you know, vision can win games, so you never know.
It can, and this is why Ashe is one of my favorite picks, because the number of times that your team blindly walk places in solo queue, whereas Ashe, you're like, oh, I think they're doing Baron. I'll just check. Already used the arrow all the way through the top side of the jungle, and then the scrying orb as well. So making sure they have at least vision behind the Rift Herald. But as you said, there's so many wards already for Weigers that are in behind Team Dark already that it's going to be a little hard for Dark to do anything around here. Ashe is in that middle lane, does have the arrow loaded and ready to go. Good damage coming out from Sync. Will at least push Weigers back for a moment, and Team Dark are going to try and cut up through the top side of the river and get that rift started.
Yeah, it seems like this time both teams want to take the same objective, in this case Herald, but Wargers doesn't have the best positioning for it. There we go.
Good damage from Ziggs, but the perfect Seraphine ultimate is going to at least charm up a bunch of people and keep them in place. In goes Irelia, but one mid has already fallen. Trying to get Elegy into the fight. Does have his ultimate back available again. That's another kill over to this carry Seraphine. It's 2. And the Seraphine, we saw it yesterday from Formulation and Team Dark. So say you made this, we made this. Playing that Seraphine alongside Ashe.
Oh, that hurts, you know. Oh, wait.
Oh!
What?
Can't let that happen. You can, like, standing next to the honey fruit as well. Feels like that was a little bit greedy on the side of Team Dark, and now they're going to have to forgo the dragon for it.
Yeah, well, we've got 6 ultimate, and as you can see, Wargers' mistake was getting right in line, perfect for Vanguard set from Irelia to arrive, and not only that, but also to be line for
Chase took the dragon, and it's going to be a disengage. There comes the crystalline arrow. Nope, not going to be able to curve the arrow to make it hit. But at this point, Team Dark, they should have the Rift Herald, if I remember correctly, so they should be able to drop that somewhere and get things going.
Okay, so, well, at least the only asset that Team Dark is missing right now is Ashe's Crystal Enchanted Arrow. So for the rest of things that are perfectly ready, we can see here Senna's stats here with the build Black Cleaver already in her power, in her possession. She's got it there for that extra damage. But the thing that's worrying me right now is how can they come from this? Because it might just seem like a lot. Just 2k behind in gold, 2 dragons in Wild's favor.
Ooh,
but
that actually hit.
this.
Oh, into the... I don't know whether you needed all 3 ultimates there, but they'll be back up available soon. But that was a bit of overkill from Team Dark to pick up that kill.
A little bit, just a little bit stressed, let's be honest. It was like... that was overcooked, it was burned. That was like when you cook something and then you're like, yeah, okay, let's cook it 5 more minutes just in case. Then it ends up being burned and crispy and ashy. But anyways, talking about ashy, in this case, Mario playing ashy, you can start to see the optimization here with the Manamine as well. And the Font of Life thing you were talking about before reminded me that Brown was the one using Font of Life most frequently in past patches in Wild Rift. Then I guess it's been used more and more nowadays. It's quite a good tool. And talking about tools, Six building his right here in the mid lane to prevent being attacked by Team Dark. So right now, Warga's strategy is a 1-3-1, but you've got 2 duelists, 1 top lane, 1 the bot lane, trying to split push, and 3 people in the mid lane trying to protect the rest from this that is about to happen.
Weigers are trying to get a fight started. It was actually Weigers that had the Rift Child. Apologies, I had missed that during the previous fight. And they're going to try and set it up through mid lane and try and get that turret down. They need another 100 or so damage. There you go, got it. And they would have had the Ziggs satchel charge anyway if they wanted to shut it down. Good Seraphine ult's going to hold them in place. And look at the damage coming through. His Elegy's going to try and get into the fight. Can't quite get there at first. Gets that execute. No, he doesn't. As it's Ashe that gets the kill credit. Elegy just having one of those games on Darius where you're like, I've got it, guys. I've got everything. And you don't get the reset. Ah, tragic. But Team Dark will be able to take a kill. However, they lose their mid lane tower for it.
Well, I mean, I'd like something, you know, saving it, but we can see it here with Mario and Yuzi being deep trouble right there with the Herald. You would think they will do well, but Extreme became extremely isolated, and in the meantime, the rest of his teammates couldn't run away fast enough. So therefore, that's what you're seeing right now, but at least, hey, they saved the tower, that's something. And the next move that I'm expecting from both teams, one is taking the mid lane for Team Dark. And again, this split pushing routine for Wargas, it's the only thing you can really do now, where your mid lane at 6, so in this case, Michele is so far behind. Fallen isn't having the best of games here with the Edge of the Night in his power already. You know, like, you're not doing this scaling as good as you could be doing it. You're having issues here and there all over the map. Many open spots for Team Dark to take. So kind of, you just need to group up together. Oh, that ultimate.
Yeah, it's going to hit on to Senna. And Elegy again, his ult goes on cooldown. This time he's going to have none of it and go right behind the turret and try and stay alive. Nearly outplays him, does Fowlin. But at this point, Weigers, they've lost 3 in exchange for getting that kill onto Elegy, and now Elegy is going to have to respawn for a potential dragon fight. Stun does land, and in goes one mid, trying to make this work. It's so funny to me that Team Dark have just basically taken what Formulation did yesterday with the Aurelia, with the team fighting bot lane. Kind of funny to me how that's worked out.
I mean, you're laughing. I'm sure Wargas are suffering right now because look at this. The Encore by Seraphina being amazing, and also Elegy being fearless. Is getting on the turret. You said it before, Darius got it all under control. He gets killed in the end, but doesn't matter because what he's accomplished is way more than they could bargain for. So with 10 kills, 4 kills ahead of Wargas, 1 dragon and 2 turrets, you would think things will be going in the favor, but somehow Wargas has been able to take things away from this, like in this case a kill, etc. But look at this, because things don't seem to have ended. Right now things are going to be about team fighting finally, which is a good setup for Team Dark as we've seen. And there we go once again, Stress.
Yeah, it's going to be important for Team Dark to break this middle lane, and you can see how difficult it is against Ziggs. Just clears the wave, throws out the bombs, throws out anything that he needs in order to clear it. I think that's been the one saving grace potentially for Weigers, is the stun does lock 2 in place. And flash forward, catches 2, catches the damage, and they're so very low, but they haven't been able to get the kill for Team Dark. And in goes Sync. Sync is going to drop, and it's too much. overextended behind the tower. That was a perfect start to the fight, but this is not enough damage to follow up and finish off some of these kills for Team Dark.
Yeah, they can opt for something else since right now both Yeezy and Mario are full life. One mid is here roaming in the top lane, wave clear, making sure his team can get the trio when it comes next to a top lane tower. And in the meantime, as Varga are deciding to do the same, but in the bot lane in this case, is leave the wave a little bit pushed, entertain Team Dark in the meantime, and then rotate towards the mid lane to keep on pushing, to keep getting a little bit more pressure on the map. But I mean, not all the ultimates are up, particularly when it comes to Vargas. They'll be up in a few seconds, so it's not the best time to fight for them. Kind of worried about the state of the team right now, stressed because even though they get little victories here and there, they don't seem to be making the most out of it. And if they want to win this game, they're gonna need to go through Seraphine, for example, reign champion they have to go through. Like in this case, they say it here.
Yeah, but the thing is, Wygas, they can put damage down from a really far distance. That apprehend was beautiful.
Whoa.
Didn't even need the arrow to hit. What a play from Elegy. He gets 2 kills for the team to start this off, and now that they can push this through in the middle lane and has that ultimate available, they basically have everything other than the Seraphine and the Ashe ult up, so they can continue going here. That couldn't have gone better from that apprehend for Team Dark.
It was so good. I mean, another mistake here made by Vargas, just hiding both of you behind a wall together.
One mid's going to jump out of the bush and try and take a 1 versus 3. Does get punished for it, though, by Garen. And Zero's going to try and cut around the top. They need to rush this down. Still 3,000 health on it. Fallon is there, but he's on such little health. Trying to get over the wall. Can't get it. It's smited by Sync. And that means Team Dark will have the Baron buff, and Wygas are going to have to run away. Garen, can he escape the Ashe? Flash forward just to get those slowing abilities, and, well, I should say auto attacks, followed up with the volley to be able to get the kill. And Team Dark, it was on a little bit of a knife's edge there for a moment, but they will get the Baron and look to continue having control of this game.
This is where Font of Life comes in really handy. Well, you can see here the setup for the last team fight, in which, I mean, clearly that double kill was so easy, as you said, with the apprehend. Both of them just getting double kill there, and then being really easy to chase out, given that Garen's movement speed is not the best at this point in the game. Jace can do a little bit better with the barrier, to keep the enemies at bay, but this was about to be taken by, I was about to call them WREC. Oh my gosh, by Team Dark. And then the Baron was kind of free. The amount of damage he had to just lower it down was kind of easy. They just sent off a Aurelia dive there, but for the rest of it was quite easy. Zero getting the team fight alone.
Oh, we're back into another fight. As you can see, Zero's trying to go aggressive on some Seraphine and trying to shut him down. Elegy is going to be able to split the fight up a little bit, and Extreme has found himself caught out. That's a big volley. Is going to at least hold 2 people in place, and at this point, Mario is going to turn the damage up. Ashe not known for her damage at the beginning of the game, but I'll tell you what, once she gets a few items, she can make it work. But Fallon's going to shut down Ashe. That's going to be all 5 members of Wygas dead, and Team Dark have the Baron buff to continue pushing through. So Team Dark will be taking the first game of this series 1-0 against Wygas, basically taking the composition they lost to almost yesterday.
Whoa. Okay. I'm impressed with Team Dark's ability to close the game in 90 minutes versus an enemy that seemed to be stronger, like Wygas. I mean, stronger in comparison to what they've been facing past 8. So we'll see if that keeps going on for the next game, but I hope Wygas kind of awaken, because mid-game for them was really told. They couldn't make it out alive. The team fights were disastrous. So come on, give us something.
Yeah, I'm just going to be completely blunt and say I just don't like the composition that Wygas were running. I think there's too few tools of engages to get engages started, and you don't have the same zone control that Formulation were playing, like where you had a Nunu so that it was like, if you try and engage on us, we can stop you. This is just like a number of squishy carries and a Garen. where you're like, well, I guess they're just going to engage on us from super long range and we can't do much. I was wondering whether there was more to it that we would see in the game. Unfortunately not. I think Weigers did a really good job when they could land their damage of taking kills from fights and taking objectives where they could. They actually contested a lot of the early game objectives, but I just feel like that they didn't have enough utility to actually do much outside of getting engaged upon and hoping you can survive through.
Yeah, as opposed to Team Dark having more of a classic composition, it allows you to deal all the damage from the back lane, like the Ashe and the Seraphine were barely touched throughout the game. They could just keep on, spamming abilities without any kind of consequence because Vargas wasn't able to get to them, which is a pity because, again, I've seen how well Vargas can play and I've seen how well they can execute this composition. They are not doing it today, so please recover for the second game. For the time being, we've got here the scoreboards. Okay, Elegy is breaking, entire thing, but for me, Yuzi is perhaps best one in this game.
Absolutely. 6-0 and 11, most gold in the game on Seraphine support. Building full AP as well. Why not? Who even needs support items? I mean, Ashe was practically the support in this game. Highest damage, highest gold. Got it. That's all they needed from that Seraphine. I like watching this game. I like this team fight style, like when you have champions like Ashe and Seraphine that can actually get fights started. We'll see whether Team Dark can kind of run it back with the same kind of composition in the next game, or whether Weigers will turn it back around. I think this is a really odd draft in general out of both teams. There was a lot of high priority picks that either fell through the draft, and we saw like 6 junglers banned out, and it kind of forced Fowler onto the Jace that they had picked up early. So I want to see what other changes will come in, before game 2.
Well, we'll see, but I'm really excited to see them. I want something new.
I want something new as well. Before we get to game 2, we need to check out our play of the game and see what pivotal moment of the game turned it around. Probably coming off a Seraphine ult is my guess. Might even be that Apprehend.
Do you think it's going to be that in Cool? Okay,
it was
the combo and Cool plus Bungle Setch all together. Yes, indeed, I agree with you in this one. It was quite a good play, getting them so many kills, but most importantly, getting them control of this team fight and leading to the end of the game as well. So, well deserved, indeed.
Yeah, big play of the game coming from Juicy Seraphine. I like watching Juicy Seraphine. Like, let's see if we have it again. Sona was banned in game number 1. We'll see whether that happens in game 2 as well. Of course, when we come back in a handful of minutes' time, we are still watching through Team Dark versus Weigers. One of these teams will be eliminated following this matchup. We'll see whether Team Dark can close it out 2-0, whether Weigers can come back and make it a 2-1 series. Welcome back, everybody, to day 2 of week 4 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. I'm Stress, joined by Carmeline. And that was a fun and interesting game, number 1, between Team Dark and Weigers. We saw a little bit of a swap up on the Ashe and the Seraphine. Seraphine going to the carry for Juicy, kind of throwing everything. A little bit craziness there, Carmeline. I struggle to keep up a little bit when recognizing everything on the map on that game.
It was a trap. You know, I mean, you watched at the composition and you're like, oh, yeah, of course, I'm going to play this straight up. And then they didn't.
Well, we're going to keep our eyes for any other swapping shenanigans coming through in game 2, which we'll be getting to in just a handful of minutes. First of all, though, it's time for a lesson. It's time for some macro lessons from Stuart. We're looking all the way back to last week's games between Gamelord and Team K. So, Stuart, let's go through a little bit more macro.
Thank you very much, Stress. Yes, we're going back all the way to Sunday for Team Queso versus Gamelord. This was in the first game as well. Very, very close series overall, as you can tell at this point of the game. 30 minutes in, score and everything is pretty much dead even. The one thing I want to focus on as we roll this clip is kind of the overextension of Team Queso. You can see that Mephinork jumps in very early to try and catch out the Nami, and you'll see Andreas also tries to jump in as well. So a little bit of miscommunication. Now the Nami wave of Heste was able to delay the engage of Team Queso, and this kind of started the counter engage for Gamelord. You can see that Andreas, because he's jumped in, he's now isolated, and Redemption is able to do a lot of damage, and you see the package that goes across the whole team as well, which forced Andreas to flash away as well. This kind of separates the whole team as well. And whilst it was all happened, Veos was on the side in the mid lane the whole time. And you can see that he's trying to flank now, trying to jump onto Heste into the back line. But the most important thing here is the exhaust. The exhaust from Redemption here, mostly played on AD carries now on the exhaust, is able to deny Redemption and deny Veos, and keep Redemption alive. So that's it for Swatcher for this week. Back to Stress and Carmeline to get us into game number 2.
I baited you all into thinking we're having a macro lesson. We're having a team fighting lesson with Stuart. There's so many fundamentals we're going to have to go through and just keep our eye on how the best teams do it. So that was an incredible series between Gamelord and Team Queso last week, and we're in the middle of a fun series between Team Dark and Weigers. Make sure you get your votes in chat and let us know who you think is going to win. Team Dark had like 94% of the vote in game 1, much to Carmeline's dismay, I guess is one way of putting it. But as we head into picks and bans, what do you want to see change for the game 2, Carmeline?
Can I change everything? Just every single thing we saw with the past game, please? Thank you. I'm hiding my pain behind my smile, but I'm suffering right now. No, actually, Weigers, please. You've got so many good picks. You've been playing Darius 2 times in the past few games. Can we please get more of that instead of you playing compositions that don't really make that much sense? Thank you very much. But for now, we're getting with the bans. We've got Gassix being banned. A pick that Fallen has played in the past, but you want to take away from Sync. So, okay, goodbye, creature from the void.
Yeah, you can see how Sync wants to play as well. Even on the last game in Gragas, he's like, I'm just going to dive all the time. So taking away the champions that don't die when you do that and can jump out effectively, going to be a little bit better from the side of Dark. So looking at it, Gragas has been banned on that red side. We've also had Olaf, Kha'Zix, Morgana, and Fiora taken away. Jace is up. We saw so many bans towards jungle in the first game that I'm wondering whether we'll see more. We already have had 3 or potentially 4 here as well, as Galio is going to be the last remaining ban. So we've got the Jace, the Camille, the Garen, Yumi is up available. Camille is going to be the first pick for Weigers.
Okay, finally, thank you for choosing the Camille for the one time. Now we've got a new pick here for Team Dark, which is going to be Red Hand. They played Galio, but we haven't seen them play Red Handless in this competition. So we'll see what they pair him up with. There are many choices still in the Rift, but that's going to be it for them for now, as well as Lee Sin.
Yeah, Lee Sin for Sync, I like it. I like that it's another one of those picks that can go aggressive. However, Weigers right now have 3 exceptionally strong picks. When you look at how the meta has been, we've seen so many Corki bans, we've seen a bunch of set bans, we've seen a lot of Camille bans as well. So like, I feel like there's been a lot of strength given over to Weigers. The last pick is going to be Team Dark's Elegies Darius, which is harder to say than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, Darius picked up for Team Dark.
Why leave it open? Why did you leave it open? Why, guys? Was it needed? What did you really need to leave it open? You didn't. But in any case, I mean, at least they banned it. It was fresh. So no Corki trash bot lane anymore. Okay, I mean, but you let Darius go. Really, like I can't get past with that one. I'm hoping they choose wisely. Come on, ban something that we can understand. We feel like, okay, there we go. Seraphine, I accepted, but she wasn't going to go support anymore. Well, support carry like in the last game. So, okay, I'll buy it. I'll accept it.
Yeah, that was the thing. Despite the fact that it was technically, Juicy, the support player for Team Dark, it was, of course, the Seraphine that was farming and doing most of the carrying. So Yuumi banned, Orianna banned as well. So trying to take away a lot more presence on that bottom lane, Orianna. And that Corki can kind of go both between mid and bot. Now we get to see where Team Dark go. Probably AD carry here, unless they can blind pick a safe mid laner. But I think Varus makes total sense. Just it's strong, it's good in the early game, it's good for team fighting as well. So we'll be able to pick that up.
I think Team Dark are playing the game with, let's choose things that we haven't played for the entire WREC today. Let's go instead with things that Formulation Gaming played yesterday instead. So Boris is a good pick, I think. He's got the range, he's got the poke, he's gonna work quite well with the Rakan. But as a counter, we've got Brown on the Rift. We've seen what Brown can do with this Glacial Fissures, that ultimate. So I'm very excited to see finally some engaged coming from Weigers.
Yeah, on the side of Weigers, though, now they have to decide, is it going to be mid lane or is it going to be bot lane? Team Dark needs some magic damage to round out their composition. They have Darius, they have Varus, they have Lee Sin already, so wouldn't be surprised to see something like an Ahri. Zed is going to be the mid lane pickup here. Fizz would be one option for Team Dark if they want to pick it up. And Diana's open, of course. So Diana, a pick that has been banned out a lot of times here in the WREC. Now going to find her way into that middle lane matchup. We've seen how good she can team fight in yesterday's series.
I'm very excited. Feel as soon as in the mid lane, we've got consistent top laners, Team Darius and Camille. But no. Zed will be the top laner here, right? Makes sense.
I'm guessing it's Camille top lane, set jungle is my guess.
Could be, but it of course
could be either way.
Set bot lane if they want to innovate a little bit. Okay, well, I guess I'm seeing you. I'm seeing what you're trying to propose here. Now, rotate the set to the bot lane. It'll be more interesting. But, well, in any case...
I don't think they're going to put set in a bottom lane. Maybe I'm
not
alone, seeing something. But,
leave me alone. I want to believe.
I feel like Corki Brawn is the heavy option for bot lane, unless there's something different.
I'm proposing something to them. I want them to follow with what I'm saying.
I don't know that I would really ever want to play a melee matchup into Varus, especially not to like Varus for Khan. But
I want to believe.
Okay, well, we'll see when they load into the game exactly where everything is going to go. I think the setup from Team Dark is a little bit more standard than what we've seen. Yeah. There's kind of like a move away from what Formulation was doing, which is still fine. Like I don't see a problem with it at all. Like Varus is a consistently strong bot lane. The side of Team Dark, I think they got Weigers, I should say, got a massive amount of power picks in this game, and they're already finding Elegy. That's not your side of the rift. This looks like they 5-person stacked topside and waited in a bush.
Come on, you're taking way too long to chase this person. There we go. The shield activated, the passive activated for Camille for Fallen right here. In the end, we've got set top lane Camille jungle. We don't have said bot lane, which is kind of sad. But well, but we do have the rotation, the top lane we were expecting to see. And in the meantime, okay, Chad, what's going on here? Okay, let's get serious, right? What does it even mean? 25%?
Sync's gone in. Sync's going to actually contest, but doesn't really get it. I think that Fowlin's still got the blue buff. Yes, Sync took red, went to blue buff. Now it's Michele. A little bit of trouble in mid lane. Does manage to get under their own tower and get the honey fruit. But very aggressive starts this game by Team Dark, trying to kind of bounce back off that first blood that went over to Weigers.
You've got this typical playstyle that is being implemented in these leagues in which you've got a jungler and the mid laner apply lots of pressure in the early game. Oh my gosh, right there with the mark on top of Extreme as well. That is being implemented with lots of roaming from the very beginning of the game. In the meantime, you can also see Fowlin with the Camille rotating towards that mid lane, top lane. You know, she's going to be giving loads of credit, loads of autonomy to both Corki and Braum down the bot lane. It's a confident top bot lane that can build well on its own, kind of independent, if you may. So it can make complete sense. This is the way they're wanting to play it. Now, careful with Sync, because we've seen he's not afraid to dive deep into the junglers, into the jungle side of the enemy team. And that's something that we can foresee causing loads of trouble for Weigers.
It's funny, you mentioned how Corki Braum should be able to handle things on their own. Meanwhile, there's a top lane engage. Is going to be Juicy's come up here. That's a big shield onto Set. It's keeping him alive for just long enough, but Elegy does pick it up. Now has access to the ultimate. Can't quite get anybody low enough and doesn't get the kill off that. And now Juicy's in a little bit of trouble. Is going to have to try and pick up a kill, but is nowhere near to do it. And Team Dark, yes, they get one kill, but they lose 2 for it.
Okay, so there we saw it. The first play of the game for them. 3 kills versus 1 for Team Dark. Good start for Weigers. Good start for the Spanish team. But now you've got Zero alone in here with Sync and Mara chasing. Oh, woo!
I thought that was going to go wrong for a moment there, but Sync does manage to pick up the kill, does also now have access to his ultimate as well. And that might mean that Round is in trouble. Doesn't connect the Sonic Wave. Here comes Juicy, though, into the back of the lane. There's the Chains of Corruption. Should be an easy setup, even with Braum being quite tanky. Sync is going to pick up a kill and even up the kill score, 3 kills to 3.
Well, that was certainly something. I mean, as I told you, Camille will be focusing more on the top lane, mid lane. We've got instead Sync, you know, as Darius should be faring well enough on his own. And he has retained towards the bot lane where there's more action incoming. Poor Zero, he's been chased dead.
Has been pushed out of lane 3 times already. It's something I wanted to comment about already. In the 2 versus 2, Mario and Juicy had bullied Zero and Round all the way out of the lane at level 2. They got themselves a laning advantage and have just constantly hammered through this bottom lane. Like Team Dark putting so much focus against Zero and Round to try and shut this Corki out. Corki's the only source of magic damage in this entire composition. So if there's a way that Team Dark can get a little bit of magic resist and stop some of the extra damage, sorry, I was going to say armor, and stop some of the damage coming from Zero, then they should be able to survive through a lot of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Also take into account, if you look at the scoreboard, you can see how the only Weigers player, well, I'll tell you about it later, because right now they seem to be wanting to kill the Round, which is not going to be the case in the end. 1 mid.
1 mid is not in a good spot. Had used the ultimate already, had used Ignite and the Flash, and Juicy has been at least spotted Round on the way here. That's 3 versus 2 if they were to go aggressive here. Juicy's going to go in over the wall. Rift Herald was taken, though, by Sync, so they're able to pose a little bit of a distraction for now. Chains of Corruption gets flashed. We'll take that trade on the side of Team Dark all of the time.
So I was saying that something I'll tell you later. Team Dark doesn't want me to speak. I see. Okay. Team leave Carmela in the dark. No, but I mean, what I was saying is essentially the only teammate that is ahead gold when it comes to Weigers is Michele. The rest of the gold advantage goes over to Team Dark's members, and that clearly indicates that there's an issue going on with the Spanish team. You are not performing as well in all the lanes. Oh my gosh.
Fowlin tries to go in, can't quite get the steal off on the Drake, and will trade his life for it. That is another big pickup for Team Dark.
It is indeed. And now look at them rotate towards the bot lane right there to get that extra whip clear push in there with the bot lane. They could get the first tower of the game for themselves. In the meantime, Weigers contesting with the mid lane. Oh, Extreme about to die right there.
Yeah, charging up, piercing arrow. Oh, Extreme. Extreme, you can't walk closer to the wall. That basically makes it impossible
Easier.
to dodge.
Hey,
In goes
Joel.
Juicy, gonna set up the Chains of Corruption as well. Can't quite convert it though, as Elegy now in a lot of trouble behind enemy lines, and Juicy will be able to blast cone his way out. That actually puts Mario in a really tough situation. He picked up 1 kill against the Brawn, but meanwhile Sinkus is playing PvE on the side, is gonna drop Rift Herald and look for top lane tower.
Yeah, the first tower was taken by Team Dark, the second one will be taken by them as well. But we've got the skill right here in the bot lane. 1 versus 1. Michele trying to heal himself. But hey, Diana way too strong, a good duelist, and Fallen about to die as well. What's going on in this game? 6 minutes in, 6 kills for each team. What is this?
It is a game of Wild Rift. Is 6 minutes, 6 kills per team. That's how we like to play it. A little bit quicker, a little bit faster. Got to get aggressive plays going. And 1mid, I think, is one of the players I'm keeping my eyes on from Team Dark. That I feel like when I'm watching Team Dark, Sync and 1mid go aggressive no matter what the cost is.
Yep.
Which against like the top teams has really punished them, but against teams that perhaps make a comparable number of mistakes, like it seems to work quite effectively. They're always trading up at all times of the game. They're like, okay, we'll at least take the advantageous trade.
Yeah, and that's gonna cost them a lot. So in this game, it might allow them to make it out alive, but as you said, against bigger teams, not going to be the case. And now look at them run. The move speed is not as big as they would like it to be. This allows Team Dark to have a window in here open for themselves to again wave clear a little bit and then keep on pushing on the enemy jungle like you were seeing with Diana and Lizzie right there. As I said, 1mid and Sync risking many things just to get 1 kill, even if it's this 1 kill will, secure them at least on the objective. Soon the Herald is about to be on the Rift. They got no issue in invading the enemy jungle. Warding that. Look at the vision all around the map by Wilders as well. I think that's one of the strongest points for this team. So let's see if that can keep them alive.
Dark are going to push down this mid lane tower. Chains of Corruption to land. Only 100 health left on the tower as they will push it through. Now they're going to go aggressive behind the tower with the Dragon's Rage and look for a second kill here. Varus has picked up a kill and they're going to continue this push as they rotate round towards Rift Herald. That's going to be the death mark popping Elegy, and it will be enough to pick up the kill. That fight was without Weigers going back and picking up the package as well, so they may be able to contest this Rift Herald a little bit stronger than they would have done previously. So this is the beginning of that fight around mid tower.
Yeah, we've seen that right now. We see the bombs arriving from Corky. And then you've got there in the tower. Once the tower is out, there isn't damage coming anymore for Wargers besides the ones that they've got. And Juicy manages to go and leave alive by barely.
Oh, package goes in. Chains of Corruption will hit, and that will spread onto 2 at least. In goes 1mid. No ultimate available, but it doesn't matter yet. Those piercing arrows can deal damage from afar from the side of Mario, and they will pick up that Rift Herald.
Well, that's another 1 point for Team Dark. Chasing Zero now. Zero has to turn around, try to kite a little bit to keep the enemies at bay. But then again, not having many choices in here, do they? Wargers is being cornered into their own towers. 3 towers down already. That means that they're going to have to play real safe.
Uh-oh. Mario, actually, that deathmark damage is not going to do enough as he was able to flash away. Juicy was there as well to protect him. So that's a big cooldown used for Michele as there's a dragon about to start. Like, I actually think that probably means that Weigers can't contest his Drake.
No, they are definitely going up for the top lane and mid lane instead. They're going to try to take something out of there. But the dragon goes down fast enough so that, well, they didn't have time to do basically anything. They're going to try to save the bot lane tower. But Team Dark seems to be focusing on this one objective. So let's see if they can take not.
Juicy couldn't connect on the Rakan knock-up there. Was looking to try and pressure out and start a fight. Now it's mid lane as 1mid is going to go in. Zero has already dropped to begin this one off, and it feels a little bit like Team Dark taking too much control here, and the Weigers don't have many options available to fight back into it. They're going to be able to push through this bot tower as well. No real push available onto the inhibitor unless they get that connection off the Varus ultimate. Juicy tries to go in. Now will dash back out. Hextech ultimatum is going to lock him in place, but it's actually Weigers that are going to end up getting the kills here. It's a double kill for one mid already as Elegy picks up one for the fight for himself. And there's not enough minions to continue this push all the way through, but it will be the inhibitor tower going down. Surely, you got to finish it. You got to get it. Yeah, Juicy's going to get it and push down that inhibitor as Team Dark will take the first inhib of the game.
They've taken 3 towers in one play. That's what Team Dark have done. You see here how they managed to enter the enemy base. The Glacial Fissure not doing much. Hextech ultimatum as well, cornering the enemies right under the tower. And then it's so easy to pick the kills of Wargers. Right there, even with the ultimates up, there's nothing they can really do. The Valkyrie by Cork is still being up as well. You forgot Zed dying with his ultimate up. I mean, once again, Wargers being let kind of useless, kind of helpless, I'd say. And the story will repeat itself. Michaela trying to get a 1 versus 1 kill onto the enemy team, onto a key member like Sync, but not getting it, therefore rebuilding his position to them. And now, well, Team Dark knows what to do.
Yeah, Varicel goes through. Juicy wasn't able to connect in the way he wanted to. One of the problems that Michele has is the fact that 4 members of Team Dark have their stasis and have had it for a little while as well. So he can't really find Mario, can't find one mid either. So he's just trying to throw it out to just get damage onto anyone that he can before these fights happen. Problem is, they just heal it back up. They just kind of weather the storm and eat the damage, and it doesn't do enough to actually pick up a kill. Apprehend comes through. That's a big pull through, though, for Extreme, and it's top side that we're looking for this fight, as they're just going to rain damage down from Mario on this Varus.
I was looking closely at the Haymaker by Extreme.
In goes Juicy, gets a big charm. Chains of Corruption is going to deal the damage, or at least set them up to deal the damage as well. That will be a big pick-off for Michaela, though, as they will take down one mid and Juicy. I think now is where Mario's in trouble, because his stasis, was it available? Doesn't look like it. And that's the second kill. Now Zed managing to get a little bit of an impact on this game.
Yes, saying the only one with a decent 2 summoners alive, up. LG not having any summoners and also having struggles healing up himself. And this is going to be the perfect window for Wargers to try and take the Varren, even though it's going to be quite slow.
A tiny window. Fowlin's health is too squishy. And Zero wasn't there to help either. But this is the fight that Team Dark may be overextending here.
Yeah, you can see that Sync and Ellie are going to be left quite low on life. There they go under the turret, and this was not the best choice by Yuzi. I feel like trying to disengage under the one tower that is still going on and still active was costing them their lives, not giving them many exit options, like in this case. So yeah.
Corky's dead already. Juicy had found Fowlin, and now they're going to just push through on the middle lane. Is Mario going to be forced to stasis? I don't have the read of whether it's available now. And here comes a Hextech ultimatum into the backline from Fowlin. Played perfectly and very patiently. And actually, this is Weiger's starting to hold for a moment. Elegy, the ultimate reset is not available as Fowlin is ticking and does die right before he was able to get on to the fountain. And that hemorrhage stack just bleeding him dry. And now Elegy will be taken out as well. A big, the overextensions at the end of these fights are really punishing Team Dark. Sync is going to go aggressive, and they're going to look to just take the kill onto Extreme if they can get there. But here comes Round into the fight. Now it's Round that's in trouble, but Michele is going to try and play defense here. And you can see, do they even know that Rakan is there now? Of course they will, as Juicy will reveal themselves. And a little bit of miscommunication from Sync and Juicy, as Sync led them to Juicy as Juicy was trying to recall. Now Sync is dead. Team Dark, this is like, they're falling apart with the 10k gold lead. It's just very, very scrappy.
I just feel like the team fights are going on for way too long. Like, they know how to close them. They start a team fight, they get 2 kills, and they're like, we need more kills. Okay, so we're going to be not only run away, but turning around when you could be run away and just back in again. And here we go again. It's never ending, is it?
Not with the package up as well, as Zero will have that available. Yeah, there have been objectives available at the end of these fights, and Team Dark is just like, we can finish the game when they actually can't.
This one time. We've been trying for 3 times in a row now.
One mid
Come on.
was trying to get the blue buff, did just about get it, but now he's getting hunted by Extreme, and Zero is one mid aggroed the Baron.
What's it doing?
Did he,
What is it doing?
I'm at a loss for words. I mean, I guess they're just starting
the
the fight a
flank.
little bit as Elegy has flanked here and drew them in behind enemy lines. However, look, Fowlin and the rest of Wygus are able to put damage out, and that's one mid dropping incredibly low. Set will get the pullback on Elegy. Can they get the damage through as the Chains of Corruption haven't really bought the time that Mario was hoping for? Sync is in the mix. His Guardian Angel got popped at the end of the last fight, though, remember it. However, Fowlin is very low. He needs to hookshot his way out if he can. Doesn't get the distance that he was looking for. Will get hit by Varus. One auto attack. It's not. It's the piercing arrow that is going to do it. Team Dark are going to end this game here if Mario stays alive, but at what cost? Because this has been a very scrappy game. Michele can't quite get it. Does get the kill, but the game will end. Team Dark advance 2-0 through the lower bracket, but they did not make that look easy.
I mean, it was good in one hand that they were able to end the games in 90 minutes and like 60 minutes. But on the other hand, what was that? Like, if you look at the games in retrospective, I really doubt they can be happy with what they've done. It was so convoluted. Like, every time they had a chance to get a kill, they had to make it so difficult for themselves that they ended up backfiring. And in the end, I feel like this was won because Wygus kind of lost the direction that they were going in, rather than because Team Dark were better.
Yeah, I feel like Team Dark, when they're playing aggressive and they're ahead, I think that they can make it work. But like we saw at the end of this game, like there are just fights that they're continuing to take and basically like fighting no matter the cost. And it just isn't clean in the way that you want to see from a team that are taking a 2-0 victory. And I hate to rag on Dark in this way, but I think compared to, for instance, their opponents yesterday in Formulation and some of the other teams that we've seen, like that's kind of the difference. And I think where some of the expectation doesn't match up with Dark. Like I think a lot of the broadcast team have high hopes for Team Dark, and it's just not quite clean enough for me to buy into that in the same way, personally.
Which means we're gonna give them the point in the prediction. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm establishing this new rule: if the team you're supporting underperforms, then the other person gets the point.
That's not a rule. We're not implementing that. That's not going to be a thing. I think that for Wygus, of course, this will be the last time that we're seeing them in this open bracket. They likely, I will imagine, will be in the last chance qualifier should they choose to enter that. And I think there's some promise from Wygus. I think that in their games we have seen some good performances, like the way that they were kind of punishing Team Dark's overextension. I think if Team Dark at the end of this game weren't 10k gold before all of these fights, I think Michele on the Z and Zero, if with a little bit more time, would have been able to perhaps turn this fully back around. I just think they were too far behind from the early game to actually kind of convert the comeback.
Absolutely, you can see right here, he was the team member for Wygus that deals the most damage right there. But I mean, basically, Team Dark overcomes them in every single aspect. In most of the cases, you see there one mid with 25k of damage, Sting with 19k, almost 20k, and Mario with 22k. I feel like they were really showing that through the team fights. Even despite very extended team fights, you can see it here that they were superior to Wygus in object taking, in kills, in basically every single aspect of the game.
That's the start of the game we saw from Wygus. Like we missed the very first seconds of the game, and I think they had like 5-man sack top lane and basically like got that first kill, and that's that blue peak. And then after that, Team Dark were just like, all right, let's just throw everything at bottom lane and continually try and go aggressive against Zero and Round. And I think it worked very well. They gave themselves the lead. They were able to kind of convert things and take steps forward into the game. Team Dark, we'll have to end up seeing who their next opponents are going to be. But let's take a look at the play of the game, first of all, before we get there. There's quite a few fights that could be play of the game from the Team Dark side of things.
Okay, let's take a look. Okay, this one, of course, this is the one where they infiltrate the enemy base and they are able to push this team fight up to taking the tower down. Isn't this the one where Sting ends up running into the same bush where Yuzi was?
We're not going to show that bit. That one wasn't play of the game. Nevertheless, a pretty convincing performance by Team Dark. I think if you excuse the last couple of minutes of the game where I just got a little bit crazy. I think everybody's had those games where you're like, we're so far ahead. All we've got to do is just try and hit them with our wallets and just like try and close the game. I think in general, I'm excited to see who is going to be the MVP of this series. We had some different strategies coming through out of the bottom lane. We had some engages, we had some Seraphine play, and I'm pretty sure it is going to be Juicy that is the MVP of the series. Great first game on that Seraphine.
I loved it. I think this Seraphine was so important for the win, but for Team Dark. And I also like that they're taking notes day after day. They're not conforming with what they know. They see something that's working and they make it work for themselves. So they're not afraid to adapt to new things. And of course, if we keep seeing this Seraphine from Team Dark, I think they can get far away from competition if they keep working on the certain mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the building blocks are there for them to kind of fix some of the issues that we've seen. And I've always kind of felt like it's so much easier to work with an aggressive team than to try and teach a passive team aggression.
Yeah.
Like you hard to turn that dial up on aggression. You can always turn it down a little bit, but harder to turn it up. So I think when we see plays like that at a sync and one mid, the stronger the rest of the team and the foundation of like teamwork gets, I think the better they'll end up looking. And they've got some time. They've got some time still to be working through scrims. And of course, there's only one team are going to advance from the open bracket playoffs to the finals, and everybody else will be playing in the last chance qualifier later on this year. So, I mean, they got plenty of time to fix the things that we've seen from them and get going. But I like what I've seen. I'd like to see a little bit cleaner, perhaps.
Maybe a 2-1, for example. I would like to see that in the next series coming up now, because I feel like every time we've got a 2-0, I'm like, I want something else.
Yeah, I always want to see more and see more from our players. I always want to hear more from our players, and I'll put some respect on Mario for his Varus performance and also the Ashe in Game 1. Let's hear from Mario, who's with Stuart for an interview.
Thank you very much, Stress. I'm indeed joined by Mario. Mario, congratulations. After a difficult day yesterday, you were able to bounce back and beat Weigers today. How are you and the team feeling after that victory?
To be honest, like for yesterday, I think that more or less we lost because of the underestimating of our opponent. And the other thing was the meta change. We had the meta change on Wednesday. It was an update, a big update between many nerfs and buffs. And we weren't really sure about our drafts, so that's why we had a really bad draft yesterday. We're deciding which was the priority of which champion, which is the best champion to suit for our blue side, even red side, and yeah.
No, I mean, that's completely fair. I mean, it's really hard when you only got one day to practice for a new patch. But speaking of changes, we saw a little bit of a change by yourself and Juicy down in the duo lane. We saw you play Ashe in kind of a more support role and Juicy on the Seraphine as well. Was you taking some of the pages out of Formulation's book from yesterday? Or is that something you practiced a little bit?
That was something we practiced for actually is for some days already. We've played that in Purge tournament as well. Yeah, and you could see as my runes for Ashe, it's not actually a normal AD carry rune. It's for support, and yeah.
That's completely fair. I mean, you came out on top in the end as well. And talking about the next series as well, we got Na'Vi versus Aphelion as well. What's your thoughts about that series? Oh, it seems like we've lost.
We lost Mario, unfortunately, but great to hear a little bit about the Ashe. Interesting build that I want to play. I'm going to play that. I need somebody to come support me or carry me from support. So yeah, hit me up on Twitter if you're anywhere around Diamond Yellow and want to carry me. Anyway, that's enough of me doing self-service to try and get myself, inflated into masters, as all of the pros are complaining about. I'll be one of those players. I'll be one of those players getting inflated up there. Don't you worry about it. Nothing inflated about a 2-0 win for Team Dark against Weigers. Really fun series coming up next between Navi and Aphelion. Carmine, before we head to a break, what are your initial thoughts on that series? Navi, Aphelion, who's going to win?
Navi.
Navi, easy answer. I think we're all agreed on that, but let's see whether Navi can actually close it out. We'll be back in 3.5 minutes for Navi versus Aphelion.
I prefer solo queue.
Duo kill, absolutely.
Pentakill. Pentakill, always.
Solo queue. I win the most in solo queue, so yeah, solo queue.
Duo kill.
Duo queue.
Solo queue? Duo queue.
Yeah, duo kill.
Duo queue. I need 7 to carry me.
I think I love duo queue so much because I get to play with my friends, and much easier to play than when you're playing with a random support you don't know and you can't really communicate with.
Obviously a duo kill is like bullying the kid, so it's 2 against 1, and to kill him so he feels even worse.
sonra ya pişman olacak gibi. Şimdi oynayıp kazıksa olacaklar üzerine bir de.
Welcome to the official Riot Games WREC EMEA Championship.
Everybody round, everybody round here, know we getting hype. Everybody round, 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 everybody round here, know we getting hype.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. Did you guess the right ending? Stuart, did you see what would happen with the Jax with the Yuumi on?
I mean, Jax Yuumi, we've already seen how strong Yuumi is, and it just shows in that as well. You can see that Jax can just jump around. There's all the healing and shielding for Yuumi. Nice, easy double kill, we call that.
Disgusting is what it is. Yumi's disgusting, and she did not need buffs. And when we see her in game, I will rant. But we'll save that for another time because we're closing in a little bit on Na'Vi versus Aphelion. This is in the lower bracket, of course, after Na'Vi were unsuccessful earlier on the WREC. That was yesterday's games. So let's hear from Carmeline about Na'Vi and Aphelion and what she thinks the key points are going to be.
Hello, I am talking about this amazing game that is going up. A sad note, but same formula, no success. That is, now we're picking the same champions again and again, the same Aphelion, and not really getting good results from it except for lower tier teams. Let's see if today they can change that around. And on the same vein, if you think about it, we've also been doing something that we've been, well, let's say calling vintage nowadays, which is the return of the AD carries. In Aphelion's case, they really like Kai'Sa, they really like Vayne. I suppose Na'Vi could go for more like new era, modern bot lanes compared by an AP mate, or then some kind of supportive champion. So let's see if they can keep it up to date. And finally, of course, the duel of the fates. I mean, you've got Aphelion, you've got Natus Ventura, two different organizations with such a long history. In the case of Natus Ventura, newer in the case of Aphelion. So one of them is going to have to go home today. Which one will it be? Well, we're going to watch it right now. I'm leaving it back to the casters. Thank you very much.
Yeah, only one team are going to advance. The broadcast team feel like it's going to be Na'Vi. I think Na'Vi have shown themselves to be very, very strong, but we've been known to be wrong from time to time, as Aphelion will have their opportunity in this best of 3 series. So let's take a look at the rosters for both lineups. Na'Vi we saw earlier on this week, and I think you always have to look towards Vex in that jungle, but it's Phi, Vex, Yiki, Hydro, and Sho. On the side of Aphelion, it's Fantasy Note, Arrogance, 0-2, Baige, and Mei. So, Vex, if he gets Lee Sin, I feel like you can already chalk up the 1-0 on this game. This guy's Lee Sin's so good. It was almost good enough to beat WREC yesterday. If it wasn't for a missed smite on Infernal, I think that game was done.
It was such a close series yesterday, Na'Vi against WREC, but they can't really think about that now. They have to look forward. They have to look towards Aphelion as well. And Aphelion kind of surprised some of the analysts as well, and some of us on broadcast before, where they beat Supremacy 2-1. So will they be able to come up with probably, I would say, the biggest upset of the tournament if Aphelion comes up on top here? And something I want to talk about briefly as well as we get into picks and bangs is kind of what Carmeline spoke about as well, about Baige in this Dura lane, about focusing with the likes of Kai'Sa, with the likes of Vayne as well. It does look like Aphelion like to go back to these traditional AD carries and put May or no more oh my god, what's it word called? Enchanter support. I completely forgot the word there for a second, but maybe we might see a Seraphine again as well. Seraphine and support can work very, very well. We've seen it in the carry role as well, but bans are coming in thick and fast already. Olaf and Corki already off the table. Yeah, both gone. Olaf, of course, has seen just a lot of priority, both as a solo laner and as a jungler. Terrifying if you can get that Yuumi composition to work, but it's not going to be the case here. Jax as well. Na'Vi are like, we do not want you playing Yuumi with anything particularly strong here. So they may even let Yuumi through. There's a couple more options available, but we have not seen as high a priority on the pick as we were expecting to, despite the buffs. Jace taken away as well. That leaves us with Gragas, Camille. What else is available?
Morgana is still up, Set now gone.
Yeah, Morgana's the one that May's been playing as support as well. And I think, I mean, the reason why I think we haven't been seeing that much Yuumi is that obviously before her buff, she wasn't really too strong. And it feels like the teams weren't practicing her too much. And to be fair, these teams have only had 2 days on the new patch and 2 days to practice Yuumi. Whereas, well, Navi's really only had 1 day of practice because they had the game yesterday. But wow,
there it is.
First pick Yuumi. Okay, I completely forget everything what I said. I guess Navi are like, let's go.
I honestly feel like it is this strong, and I just feel like, as you said, teams haven't had an opportunity to play with it. We'll see what they pair with it. Garen is available if they want it. Ezreal would be the AD carry choice you typically would see in PC. Darius Lee, though, prevents Vex from taking the Lee Sin and is an incredibly strong top side of the map already for Fantasy Note and Arrogance. Gragas can flex here, so we don't know exactly where it's going to go. It could go, of course, in the top lane, could go in the jungle. There is Garen. We've got Garen Yuumi, which hasn't seen the same success that it did in PC yet. It's even though Garen does a lot more, we haven't seen it terrorize as much as we kind of thought we would so far.
Yeah, not too much just yet. This is only the second time, if I'm not mistaken, that we've seen Yuumi so far. We saw Team Queso play Yuumi last weekend against Game Lord. Yeah. And this is going to be the second time we see Yuumi as well. We see Yuumi Garen paired up. Now, in PC League, we will probably say, okay, we're going to see Yuumi and Garen down the duo lane. But the problem is that you do struggle quite a lot if you try and play Yuumi Garen down the duo lane. I did try it myself yesterday as well, and it didn't really go too well in the situation. But maybe picking up another Enchanter support. The only problem is at the moment is a lot of AD damage over to the side of Aphelion at the moment. Obviously, Na'Vi already has that Gragas available, which could be paid in the mid lane, in the jungle, or even in the top lane. Sorry, so you're going to be seeing, there you go, you're going to be seeing Na'Vi banning out some AP mages to kind of restrict Aphelion with what they can pick as well. It looks like Aphelion are focusing more towards the jungle.
Yeah, that's where Aphelion are going. I wonder where their next ban is going to be away. Like Kha'Zix, you've seen a little priority against Ezreal. I like because it removes your bot lane safe carry perspective. I'd be looking towards a Vayne actually for Aphelion, believe it or not. I think they might leave it as a last pick. Garen, one of the issues he has is if he can't stay on you, his damage falls away. And Vayne's Condemned does a really good job of actually dealing with that. And she has enough mobility to avoid a lot of Yuumi's lockdown and engage. The Ziggs ban I also quite like, though. Even though I'm thinking Vayne, I think Ziggs would round out that magic damage that you were talking about and make it, again, hard for Garen to actually get into the fight.
I completely agree with you. It's going to be a Carly in the end, so maybe we are looking at an AD carry as a last pick for Aphelion, which we've seen before. So probably be either Kai'Sa or Vayne, which we've seen by gameplay before. So be probably one of the two. Now it's going to be up to Na'Vi. How are they going to round out this comp for them? Is it going to be Garen down the duo lane? Is it going to go up in the Baron lane instead? We'll have to wait too long to find out, to be fair. If I was to predict, I'll probably have a different carry down the duo lane. It will be the Varus down in the duo lane. I think this combo as well is very, very strong. Yeah. The amount of poke damage that you could already do with Varus, and now on top of the adaptive damage that Yuumi can give you as well, that's just absolutely disgusting. But yeah, we'll be Garen up in the Baron lane, and they're most likely going to pick maybe a jungler here now for Vex. Not really too much left open though for Vex, so he might be having to go back to in jungle, which it does look like, and it is going to be Aurelia in the mid lane. Yeah, Aurelia in mid lane. This gives them a lot of threats. Like Aurelia Yuumi sounds quite deadly as well. Like the number of people that Yuumi can sit on and kind of just cause havoc in a team fight. I quite like it. It's quite well-rounded composition by Na'Vi. Now we get to see where Aphelion go. We're expecting a traditional AD carry. Vayne into Varus is very hard matchup in lane, and that's a Draven. Similar principle with having some crowd control. Draven, the ultimate glass cannon on a bot lane carries, like very, very strong early game, has the ability to snowball heavily, but if he gets shut down, if you stop his passive from accumulating gold and he never cashes in, then he does not scale well at all and will just get outscaled by, like, jumped on by this Aurelia, jumped on by the Garen, and the damage will just rip through him. Yeah, honestly, I don't know if anyone will be able to go through this Garen at all with all the shielding and healing that Yuumi's going to provide. I would love to see like a Kai'Sa or a Vayne, the kind of hyperscale late game carries that can kind of shred through the Garen. But to be honest, Draven, I was about to say Darius. Draven can't really do that, unfortunately. It's going to be a bit of a struggle. I feel like Na'Vi are definitely going to focus down in this duo lane because, as you mentioned already, if you can put Draven behind, if you can kind of deny his stacks of his passes so he can't get as much gold as possible, then he is going to be put really, really far behind. And I feel like it's a very high risk, but it's something that I feel like Aphelion need to do. They need to do something different because Na'Vi, they're a big titan to come up against and they're going to be trying to do their best.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's played against Draven and thought, I'm fine, I just can't let him get a kill. And then you look at being even and then he gets a kill on like your support or on you and you look back and you're like, he's got a 1200 gold lead off one kill. Okay, perfect. You're like, great. There's a massive amount of damage that he's just going to go back and buy. I completely agree on the tank shredding need from Aphelion. And right now, it kind of looks like Aphelion are going to try and burst through the Garen once and kill him, which with Yuumi, that doesn't really work. However, this is a swap coming out. They're actually going to lane swap up to top side to avoid the Draven, I guess?
This is really interesting. Yeah, I mean, Draven Nami is a very, very strong early game lane, and if Yuumi does jump out as well, then it can be a little bit annoying because Draven could just use her third ability, or
Fantasy
you can
Note
use the Nami.
Yeah, this is
he should be okay.
Yeah, he should be fine, but it's going to zone him all the way back. That's a 94% like vote from chat. Always tends to backfire, but we did see Dark pick up the win, having the big fan vote. Fee is gonna have a rough lane as well, though. He's now in the 1 versus 2, and now that's a lot of damage coming from Yiki. Does not have ignite though, so no kill threat under tower.
Yeah, Yiki decided to go for the barrier instead. Kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like you do have a lot of kill threat early on, so if you did take the ignite, then you probably could have got first blood there onto 0-2, because Akali, with all the changes that she got kind of a few months ago now, really, she's really, really struggles in lane. She's more of like that late game carry. You can already see Vex roaming up as well. This is like classic PC League of Legends fashion with the lane swap. The junglers kind of going to crash in and they're going to look to tower dive, but Arrogance is here as well. This is really good defended by Arrogance.
Yeah, and this is great for Fantasy Note as well. You can see he's already chunked half of the health off the minions. This is going to give him a decent amount of experience, and although it's a tough lane situation, Fantasy Note can just sweep through all of those minions to make sure he gets level 3, whereas for Fee, it's a persistent thing that he has to do. He has to spin by them. You can see that is a beautiful body slam. Yek, you couldn't quite find the shutdown or the lockdown because of the double flash that came from Darius and Lee, but this is going really heavily in Navi's favor on the top side, but the gold is actually for Aphelion right now. The amount of gold that Baige and Mei have been able to accrue in the bottom lane is not something to overlook. Like, look, they've already got the damage down on these towers, which is not being equalized by this Varus. This bottom lane resistance on the towers, or lack thereof, is exactly why we don't see as many lane swaps come through.
I think, as you mentioned, I think the big thing about all of this is Arrogance rotations in this game. You know, going just for a full topside clear and then defending Fantasy Note in that top lane. I think that's a huge thing to mention because of the way that it works. Because Arrogance is up there, you can't really look to tower dive, or you can't really look to play aggressive unless you move your mid lane up, which means that Fantasy Note at the moment is probably quite far ahead of Fee, because Fee was completely zoned out at the tower. He got no experience, no gold or anything. Where you look on the other side, Fantasy Note was able to share the experience and the gold. And as you can see now, he's getting even more gold now as well. I'll be really interested to see if the production team can bring up the gold count and everything at the moment. I'll be really interested to see how far ahead Fantasy Note is of Fee, because it might be quite a big lead at the moment.
He's at least,
look at that.
Wow, that's a significant lead, and also on experience as well. Fantasy Note hit 5 while Fee was still level 3. It was only one more minion that Fee needed, but still that gives you the idea of just how far behind that matchup is going. Ooh, Yikyu is here's a tough situation without the barrier, and 0-2 doesn't even use everything and manages to pick up the solo kill.
Yeah, really nice solo queue. Yekyu, unfortunately, they're missing the stun on Irelia, and Akali dashing around, which makes it quite difficult for Yekyu to kind of stick on to Akali in the end. And yeah, the barrier from 0-2 as well, which he did. Well, he didn't even use, actually. He didn't even need to use a barrier in the end, just the execute in the end that was enough for 0-2. And again, it's Aphelion that comes up with an early lead. You can see Draven has a little bit of a goal lead, which has kind of come back now from Hydro. You can see another lane swap happening now. It looks like Garen is now going to go into the mid lane because how far behind this Garen is. Fee is so far behind. You can see I mean, he's 1,007 gold behind compared to 0-2 on Akali in mid lane. I don't know where the rotations are looking. It looks like Na'Vi are going to be looking towards this Rift Herald first with the rotations, but V is falling really, really far behind already.
Yaku is going to trade with Fantasy Note, has Vex coming topside with the Yuumi as well. This should be the kill onto Fantasy Note. Explosive Cask is going to do it, then they'll be able to take the Rift Herald. One thing as well, the longer that this game goes of avoiding, or at least Bygate avoiding fights, he's stacking that pacifier. He is not being pressured at all, so he's able to just juggle and get the adoration stacks as quickly as he wants. Now 0-2 is going to be here with Yaku in his sights, but there's there's a lot of members of Na'Vi here, and now Bygate is actually being caught, and that's a big catch, but he's going to turn it around if Draven gets that kill. That would be massive, but he doesn't get the kill. They aren't able to give it over. If they can stop it, Kali takes it as well. I mean, it's significant for Aphelion. This is a really great start for Aphelion, but it could be going even better. If Draven was getting either of these kills, it would be such a strong position for them.
But Bygate needs to get a kill to cash in on these stacks. I mean, he's probably on something like, I mean, I don't know how many stacks he's actually on. Maybe it's something that I feel like I'm calling out production every single time. If we can take a look at Draven's stacks a second, it's going to be so much gold if Draven is able to cash in with the stacks. And it was so close 2 times. They could have left the Irelia. They could have left the C as well and the Garen, but Vex, wow.
Arrogance is just going to style on the Lee Sin player with some Lee Sin himself. As we said, that Vex, if he gets Lee, can do wonders. But this game, Aphelion are really, really strong in the beginning of this game. And I feel like that one of the problems Na'Vi have is like this Garen Yuumi composition is never going to get into the game. Let's take another look at that fight around Rift Herald.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see the Bygate was so close. One more auto attack. That's all he needed to get that kill. They could have just left it for him. And again, Fihi as well. Bygate trying to use the ultimate, but it was so close. But I mean, in the end, even though they haven't got kills, I think all eyes are on Bygate this game. You know, you need to make sure you cash in. If Na'Vi can shut down this Draven, if they can get 1 kill onto this Draven, obviously Akali is really, really strong at the moment as well, but they just need to stop the stacks for this Draven, because 1 kill for this Draven, he's going to get easily 2,000 plus gold now.
I genuinely feel like the lane swap that Na'Vi opted into has screwed their early game quite heavily. Like, Fee has ended up so far behind, and this Garen is supposed to be what this composition ends up being built around later on in the game, but putting him this far behind early on, he's 2 levels down on 0-2 and still a level behind on Fantasy Note as well. So there's just no real way of Na'Vi actually starting these fights on even footing.
Yeah, it didn't really work out in their favor. You can see the idea around it. And again, Aphelion are going in. They're playing with fire this game, to be honest. They're like, okay, we're against one of the best teams in the tournament. We don't care at all. We're just going to play our own game. And it's working out wonders for them at the moment. And Fee, again, he's so far behind. 2 levels behind from this Akali, but the tower dive's not going to go in. Look at the gold lead as well now. Aphelion in such a big gold lead. They had the early dragon as well. They don't have the Rift Herald, and
that's a Chains of Corruption. This is the worst situation for Bygate, but they're not quite able to get the damage down. Bygate is so desperately low. Great interrupt on Arrogance's Lee Sin. That was very, very nearly Varus getting dove under the tower. I mean, Na'Vi are barely holding on through this, but at the same time, Bygate nearly dropping from that exchange, and that would have been devastating. Yaku is here, can't quite close the gap himself. Rift Herald is going to waddle its way up the mid lane and start to put pressure on this middle lane tower, but Na'Vi can't actually convert it into a full tower. Can they even get... Yes, okay, the charge does complete right before Rift Herald would end up falling, but it's a tower going down in the bottom lane. The second tower of the game, really, that Fantasy Note's going to push down, and that's a big gold lead, again, in that team fighting top laner. That's huge.
2 towers to 0 at the moment. It's nearly 2,000 gold lead for this Baron laner, and even over 1,000 gold leads for the mid laner. Aphelion, I'm really, really impressed. You know, we all came into this. We thought, okay, Na'Vi, one of the strongest teams in the tournament, Aphelion have to come up with something huge, but they're kind of just playing their own game at the moment. They're playing this kind of early team fight comp. You know, they have the Draven, they have the Lee Sin for these early game aggressive plays, and they're rotating around the map as well really, really well. And Na'Vi have to try and find a way to come back into this game. It looks like they are going to be going towards this Rift Herald, but we're giving them an Infernal Drake to Aphelion as well, but Baige still hasn't died yet, also still hasn't got a kill, so we're still waiting to see. I think the moment that this happens could define this whole game. I feel like, if Baige can get a kill, it'll be absolutely huge. If he doesn't get a kill, then it could be, doomed for Aphelion, but it's all going to come down to that. And it looks like they're just going to get the mid lane tower. This could be 3 towers to 0 for Aphelion, but it looks like
the minion here to protect it. Was just a couple of seconds late on that one. Chains of Corruption whiffed, but they were just trying to get anything they can. Yeah, nice dodge from 0-2 and Arrogance. So kind of looking at how this game plays out, like Na'Vi needed magic damage, so this is actually full AP Gragas jungle. This is not like a tank component. This is not, even like Run of Ages or semi-tank AP Gragas. So they were like, we just need damage to come through. What that does, though, is it makes it really hard to take these fights early. Picks like Draven and Akali will eat through a full AP Gragas with no problem. And it just means that Vex has to be very careful when he's actually choosing to go aggressive. No Chains of Corruption means they can't go too far on the defensive fight, and Hydra will fire out Piercing Arrow, pushes Aphelion back. This game's starting to slow a little bit. Aphelion are losing some of their momentum that they had, all because of the fact there's no neutral objectives to take. They do, however, have a 5,000 gold lead, so they have a good position for themselves to be in. They just need to kind of make sure that they're taking smart fights from here.
Yeah, I think as we kind of mentioned in Champions Select as well, it's going to be really hard for Aphelion to break through this Garen, but the Garen is so far behind at the moment. He's going to take so long for him to get these tanky items, so for him to be a frontline tank, and to be honest, that's kind of the only tank that Na'Vi really have, as you mentioned already. Vex is building this full AP Gragas, which we've seen a lot. We've seen it being played in the mid lane and also in the jungle as well, kind of as that AP damage source. You could play the likes of Varus in the duo lane, but then that's kind of a problem because they tried to go for this interesting lane swap. 0-2 needs to be a little bit careful. He should be fine.
Actually got caught out of the shroud as well, as Vex is going to find the engage. Doesn't get the Chains of Corruption, and Fee drops low. Baige can't put the damage down. Fee gets the barrier for himself and survives through it. And again, Baige is getting, so close in these engages. He's like, I can get it, and then can't quite get the actual conversion on the kill. So, I mean, Baige this is going to be really frustrating to be like, we're 11 minutes in and I haven't cashed in once.
Honestly, I think if he gets a kill, I think he's going to get about 3,000, 4,000 gold at this point. Probably. He's going to get so much gold. He's catched so many axes. He's been able to get so many minions as well. And he's just got so many stacks, and it's going to be so interesting to see. But as you say, the game's kind of slowed down a little bit. There's not really any fights happening. Aphelion really trying to focus down on the mid lane. They already got the top lane tower and the bot lane tower for Aphelion. I kind of want to see. We see the stacks up 243 stacks. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen a Draven have that many stacks.
He might not have that many after this, as Baige is going to get jumped on, forced to stasis, Chains of Corruption. Not like this.
No!
This shut down as Baige will get blasted by Na'Vi, and that's a Rift Herald going to charge through. Oh, we set him up for failure. We read the number of stacks. He lost them all. It's gone. Yaku is going to get caught here now. But didn't quite get the kill. It will actually end up going down as Yaku. No way is he getting. I thought he was going to get out from a Dani fruit, but Francis, picks up the kill.
You've all heard of the caster curse. I feel like that's more of a production curse for the side of, as soon as production shows the stats, that's when Draven dies. But yeah, really well played by Yaku to land the stun. You can see the Chain of Corruption following on top of the Yumi ultimate as well. And they just really wanted to shut down this Draven. And that's going to be pretty much, I think it's, if I remember correctly, half, if not over half the stacks being now taken away from Draven, I think.
On PC, at least it used to be half. So my assumption is that it would be, comparable on that. We'll see. It's 129 now, which is still a decent number of stacks. Yeah. If Baige cashes in, like that's still actually not too bad an amount of gold to get. I wanted to say before that fight that the longer the game does give Na'Vi such a better chance at getting this Garen back into the game. Yeah. Eventually, in an exceptionally long game, the early game is not going to matter. Like, Garen is still going to get, all of his items, still be as strong as possible. And then I don't see a way for Aphelion to actually eat through his health bar with this Yumi. They had just had a good advantage. Wow, 0-2 is going to get blasted to start this out. Yumi ultimate is going to be not really hitting anything, but it doesn't really matter because that Akali is already gone. Now they're going to try and get on to another target as Arrogance is going to get his way out. Chain Corruption does lock through. Oh, they're going to get the Aurelia damage, and all of those stacks are going to get halved again. And Arrogance gets locked down and locked out of this game, and Na'Vi have steadied the ship. This is the comeback already happening.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly before this team fight. I think the later this game goes, the harder and harder it gets for Aphelion, especially because they haven't been able to cash in on the Draven. And you can see in this team fight as well, the burst damage that you get as well from the Gragas just pretty much deletes 0-2. And unfortunately, then Arrogance gets caught out as well. These body slams by Vex have been very, very clean. We spoke about his Lee Sin, but it looks like his Gragas as well is just as good. And Yeku in his top lane as well, with Yumi on top of him as well. But Fancy note, he wants to take this fight, but yeah, you can't do anything really, unfortunately. And for those who don't know, one of the Yumi buffs as well was actually that you give more adaptive force damage over to AP champions now for the buff. So I kind of like the idea that Yumi is actually sitting onto Vex. So you can see you pretty much 100-0 Akali in one combo as well, which is quite disgusting. But yeah, I mean, you can see now that the gold lead is getting very, very thin, and Na'Vi are now in the gold lead as well. They got the Cloud Dragon. Even though they don't have as many towers as Aphelion and as many dragons, I feel like they can kind of get back into control of this game now. They got the scaling of the Aurelia, of the Varus as well, of the Yumi that's going to be scaling, and now we're going to see Fee building a lot of tank items as well, and it's going to be really hard for Aphelion to try and get back into this now.
Yeah, and this is definitely hindsight 2020 as Gragas is flying up to the top lane, will body slam towards Draven, and we didn't even get there in time to see the kill. He's gone. He flashed, he tried to get away. I don't think the Draven is the problem in this composition alone. It just doesn't fix the problem that Na'Vi is throwing at Aphelion. Whereas, you know, a later game scaling carry may very well still have some potency, but you can see I hadn't even considered the AP changes and how Vex is just popping people. Fantasy Note is probably dead here, although Yeku is gonna have to back away. I hadn't considered that Yumi sitting on Gragas just allows you to blast people and one-shot them.
Yeah, because it's like it works as like a ratio from the patch notes. So it's like you got 1-to-1 ratio for AD champions, but you get 1-to-2 ratio, but 0-2. That's a little bit deep, but this Baron's really low.
Yeah, Fantasy Note is still here, and I believe Baron has gone over to Na'Vi. It wasn't quite able to be stolen away, and Vex is huge on this Gragas. That's a triple kill.
Yeah, Vex showing that, you know, he can still play other champions as well. We've seen him on Fiora, we've seen him pop off on Lee Sin, and now we're seeing him on the Gragas as well. And when you have Yumi by your side as well, as you can see, it's a full AP Gragas build, Luna's Echo, Death Camp, Infinity Orb as well on top of that. And when you have a Yumi sitting on top of you as well, just giving you the extra AP damage as well, giving you the extra heals and shields. But this was a really, really close team fight, to be honest. The Baron was doing so much damage, and Fantasy Note was trying to jump in as well, but unfortunately the kills went over, and Vex just flashes over the wall, just like, yeah, you're dead fish.
And that's a dead inhibitor as well. 0-2 still not alive, neither is Fantasy Note or May. It was a great start for this game for Aphelion. Like, I don't want to take anything away from their performance, because I think had they had the same start with a later scaling carry, I think Na'Vi were in serious trouble in this game. However, that's a beautiful double stun by Yeku. And they just back away, and Vex is going to push through the bottom lane. Like, who steps up to Vex? He's going to one-shot anyone. Like, even Fantasy Note at this point. But it's actually going to be the Garen running in. They don't have the Yumi in the bottom side, so they do have to be a little bit careful for Na'Vi. But Baron minions are going to push through. Arrogance is going to try and get a kick. That's a good bubble. But look, Vex is just going to blast through the tower now. Look to continue pushing on.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to try and take this third inhibitor, and no, stasis was quite interesting. Now, look at the damage!
Oh, yeah, that's so much. Wow, 0-2, this guy's destroyed in that. All right, this is another combination to go with Yumi. Hadn't really considered it. This is why Yumi is very, very strong. It's just another way of putting it. As Na'Vi, they got all three inhibitors down. They're going to teleport back in with Vex. I don't know what he just bought. It did just pop up, but I didn't see it. As Vex will arrive in the fight and basically back away for Elder.
That's actually quite an interesting thing. I know in PC League, I'm pretty sure Yumi can't travel you with TP, but I actually haven't tested that in Wild Rift. I don't know if Yumi can travel you whilst you're TPing, because it looks like show didn't trouble with Vex, so I'm guessing it's the same kind of situation.
I meant to ask that last week. We saw Yumi actually buying boots in TP. Like, obviously you buy boots because of Wild Rift, you need the enchants anyway. But I saw Yumi buy it, so I assume you can't. But yes, I meant to try it in the week, but I forgot to.
Yeah, something definitely to give a try. I might give it a try and see. But yeah, this Elder Dragon, I mean, Aphelion are not even getting close to it. They got 3 inhibitors down. I don't think there's any way for Aphelion to come back to this. So we kind of have to look really at the next game now, what Aphelion kind of have to really do to kind of change it up. I mean, I like the idea. I like the early aggression from Aphelion. I feel like in the early game, I mean, they had like a 5,000 gold lead in the early game, but again, they were kind of relying a little bit too much on this Draven, and then when you can shut down the Draven as well, and
Vex, just 2 shots Draven. Now the Yumi ultimate's going to come through. If it wasn't hard enough to kill Na'Vi, that Elder Mountain is going to make it impossible for Aphelion to turn this one around. Yumi rears her head once again, this time on top of the Fat Man, as Gragas is going to roll his way with Na'Vi to come back in this first game against Aphelion.
Yep, huge comeback by Na'Vi after losing in the series yesterday to WREC.GG, but they came out strong. Something a little bit different as well. You know, we see the Yumi now for the second time, but now it was on AP carry, it was on Vex, and you can see, I want to see Vex's damage in the end. I'm sure he's done. I'm going to guess about like 50,000 damage, or maybe 40,000, maybe 50,000.
100,000 damage.
Yeah, imagine, over 9,000. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of damage for Gragas because, you know, you got the pairing with Yumi there as well. But again, we talk about Aphelion and what they kind of needed to do. They kind of needed to come up with something of a surprise for Na'Vi and kind of that surprise factor. And that's what we got in this early game as well. You can see these early game team fights. The fights were there and they were able to get the advantages, but they just weren't able to get that, you know, get the gold over to Draven, get that kill one. This was kind of the turning point for me, was that Draven getting taken down. As soon as Draven gets taken down, that's it. Half of your stacks are gone, and that's a lot of gold that Draven could have got. But I talk about the early game a little bit as well. We had the lane swap in the early game as well. There's so many things to talk about this game. We had the lane swap in the early game as well, which was very, very interesting, which didn't really work out in Na'Vi's favor, which was kind of a little bit of a downside to Na'Vi's kind of game plan. But in the end, they were able to scale up into this late game. They were able to take down this victory.
And I think one of the things that we have to look at is, like, when you're playing Draven, as soon as that first kill happens against you, like you die and you've used all of your defensive tools, the enemy just throw everything at you. And when you've got champions like Gragas and Aurelia and Varus who can threaten you from a distance, like if you're ever close enough that Gragas can body slam flash cast you, which is like a screen and a half's length away, you're already too close and you're going to die again. I really, really like Aphelion's start to the game, and I wish they'd been able to get the gold over onto Draven to see how the matchup would have gone. But like Na'Vi perfectly utilizing the Varus to slow the game down, knowing they just needed time to get more items on the Gragas and the Garen and to turn the game around. And this is why we say that they're one of the top teams, at least from the top 8 and the top 4, is like they're good at knowing when they just need to slow and be steady and turn the game back into their favor. Let's take a look at these damage numbers after the gold. Like you can see Vex is the carry, so let's see the damage and see what the damage done was going to be. I mean, it's still significant though, right? Like 32k is a lot of damage to be done.
Oh, it's 10,000 more than Hydro, and then pretty much over double of anyone on the side of Aphelion. So Vex, you know, figuring out the kind of situations. You can see the gold lead as well, and Aphelion did have, you know, about a 6,000 gold lead coming into the early game, but then it was kind of a little bit of a bounce back, and you just had to wait a little bit, as you mentioned. You know, Na'Vi kind of knowing that as long as they play passive, as long as they don't take any crazy early game team fights, then they could just shut down the Draven later on, because like you said, you have the threat of Aurelia, you have the threat of Gragas, and also Varus being up to threat from a long distance as well. And that's what they did again. They kind of played passive. They just kind of said to Fee, it was like, okay, you're going to get put behind this game, but we got a game plan. And it did work out in the end, even though they did fall behind a little bit in the early game. They were able to take the victory in the end. Yeah,
able to bounce back. And when we look at the play of the game, I feel like it's probably going to be that mid lane catch on the Draven. I assume it's going to be that, and this is just how a game turns around for Na'Vi.
Yeah, it's not going to be that. It's going to be the fight just after that, where it's going to be around the Cloud Dragon, where you can see how much damage Vex can do with Yuumi on top as well. He was flashing in before, he dashed in before. He was able to flash body slam there again, land a barrel onto Baigay as well here, just doing so much damage on this Gragas. And as you can see, in the end, it was just the pick potential of Na'Vi that came out on top as well. You know, you got the chain of corruption, you got the body slam, you got the Irelia third ability as well that's just able to pick the members off of the Felion. And in the end, that's the difference, and that's how they came out on top.
Yeah, I think for Felion, I would love to see a few little differences in the draft, mainly based around that bottom lane. I think they had the possibility to really like upset things. That could have been a one game against Na'Vi for sure. And I think Felion, if they can have the same early game, perhaps with a little bit better scaling and a little bit less, risky bot lane play, they may very well be able to even up the series. We are 1-0 currently with Na'Vi versus Felion. When we come back in 3.5 minutes, it'll be game 2 between Na'Vi and Felion. Hey again, we're back with game 2, or soon to be game 2, between Na'Vi and Aphelion here at the Wild Rift EMEA Championship. Stress joined by Stuart for, I think, a closer series than we were expecting. Like, we thought Na'Vi were going to have this coming into it, but that was a lot closer over game 1.
Yeah, the early game didn't really work out in Na'Vi's favor. I felt like that lane swap kind of put a spanner in the works a little bit. Maybe they weren't used to it, but because you can see the idea of why they wanted to lane swap. You don't really want to play against a Draven Nami when you're playing a Varus Yuumi lane. But yeah, Aphelion, I mean, in the end, I definitely surprised us both, and I think surprised a lot of people as well coming into this. And they're going to look to try and do the same again. I feel like if they get the same early aggression, but maybe have a different AD carry, if they had a scaling AD carry, and if they got that far ahead on another different AD carry. But you can see Eduardo here showing how strong Gragas can be and how much beautiful he is on Wild Rift, actually.
Missing a cat. There's a cat missing from this Gragas in Wild Rift. But one person I want to hear from before we get into our game is Carmeline. What were your thoughts on game 1 and what maybe needs to be fixed for Aphelion in game number 2?
Okay, first of all, we have to talk about League of Draven. It was amazing seeing this champion once again on the Rift, both in PZ and especially here in Wild Rift. So amazing pick there for Aphelion. It's a pity that it only dealt like 7,000 damage in the end. Well, I mean, maybe if they put it this time around, it'll be better. But, well, in any case, talking about Aphelion, we really underestimated the team. Like, we were like, yeah, they're going to lose against Na'Vi. Let's see how long it takes them to win. And then they surprised us in the first half. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie. But then it all turned to ashes as Na'Vi retook the throne. Because, yes, we did this comeback that we've been talking about, that we desperately needed to see from them. Where was Na'Vi? That was the question we were asking ourselves. And Na'Vi made their final appearance. So let's see if they can keep it up and make it a 2-0, or if they will lose the next game versus Aphelion and leave it all to a third game. But for now, this has been it. Thank you very much. Back to the casters.
Yeah, Na'Vi is kind of a little quiet in the early game. I feel like this is probably a little disrespectful for me to say, but I feel like most of the early game was like Na'Vi making it harder for themselves than they needed it to. Aphelion doing a good job though of actually like taking an opportunity like that and saying, okay, let's take the fight so we have them in our advantage. But then as soon as Na'Vi went, wait, let's just like not let them push through mid tower, and then we just infinitely scaled basically. Like this Yuumi is going to help us out. Game number 2, I wouldn't expect to see Na'Vi just force it from the beginning and like not even look for a lane swap or anything like that, even if they're in bad matchups. I think the confidence you get from a comeback like that basically just says, okay, well, let's just play our own game and we're going to win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we know how strong Na'Vi are. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Yuumi ban by Aphelion as well, to be fair. I think the Yuumi combo with the Gragas, we've seen it work before with Olaf, and now we've seen it work with Gragas, which is 2 completely different ways of looking at it. But it's just the extra damage that Yuumi can give to your team and the extra heals and shielding. It's just way too much. It's going to be Corki first up, so taking that wave from Hydro, and they've swapped sides though, and it's actually Na'Vi the ones that are going to ban out Yuumi, so making sure that they don't get the first pick.
I was going to say red side, you kind of have to consider it at least a little bit here. Now you get to play the game of what 2 picks do you get. I'm going to just assume Vex will get his Lee Sin. It's unlikely that Aphelion are going to ban it here or first pick it when everything else is available. I mean, Morgana's going to be up. At least like Camille, Gragas, I think is one that Aphelion have to consider banning or first picking. A lot of picks still available, so unlikely that Lee Sin is going to be zoned away from this draft from Na'Vi.
Yeah, most likely I mean, you see on blue side bans most of the time because you don't really want to first pick Lee Sin because there's not really a first pick worthy champion, but it's definitely worth picking in the first rotation on the red side. Olaf being banned out as well now, so it leaves a few picks. Like you say, Gragas is available, Camille is also available as well, Morgana is available, what we've seen from Jace as well. Jace is someone that's kind of fallen through a little bit, but Aphelion's like, okay, we're going to give him a try.
So now it's something plus Lee. Is it Morgana? Is it Camille? Is it Gragas Lee? Like,
yeah.
Because then you get to take away a jungler as well. And I feel like that might even put Jace in the jungle. And I'm like, I don't think it does what you need a jungler to do in the meta right now, because then you need to look for engaged sources and tank sources elsewhere that the rest of the lineup that's available with these bans doesn't really do it for you. So I feel like picking Lee here probably does force Aphelion into a tough situation.
Yeah, definitely. Unless they want Vex to go back onto the Gragas, but it's going to be priority on the Garen instead. So taking it up 2 feet in the Baron lane again. But yeah, like I said, unless they want Vex to go on the Gragas again, they just want to leave Lee Sin open again. But that means that maybe here Arrogance wants to pick the Lee Sin again, because it did work out really, really well for him in the early game. I have to give big props to Arrogance as well with his jungle path in the early game, being able to help Fancino in that 2 versus 1 situation, and he will pick up the Lee Sin again. So it's going to be the early aggressive plays for Aphelion, which worked out for them, but it was just they kind of ran out of ideas. When it got to the mid and late game.
Yeah, it did. They started falling behind, and from there, Na'Vi were able to turn it back. So where do we go here? Is this support? Maybe we've seen some presence on Thresh, but like, because it's either going to be like bot lane carry, support, or mid here for Aphelion, and unless they're going for something like a Zed, okay. I like the Varus pickup here. It's a whole lot stronger. You've now got the beginnings of a poke composition quite effectively from a Baron lane Jace and a Dragon lane Varus. I think is a good setup to start with.
Yeah, now I feel like Aphelion have kind of put themselves in a bit of a hole here though, because now I feel like Na'Vi can just ban Morgana and Diana, for example. And then I'm like, okay, who else are you going to pick mid? You know, when Diana's gone, when Morgana's gone, you have to go back to maybe Akali again. But
yeah, you're
I'm
looking
not really
at like
too sure.
Akali, Ori, Ari, if you want to, or they're looking at maybe Jace going into the middle lane with that Darius being banned away. I guess that would take away a bruiser here. We haven't seen a whole lot of Jace in the mid lane, mostly up in that Baron lane or in the jungle when it's been played in Europe.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. I'm quite curious to see why Na'Vi are banning out the Baron lanes, because like you said, it'll most likely be Jace in the Baron lane. They are going to take that Akali away, so that is another AP damage threat, but then you kind of have to think, okay, they're probably going to pick Diana, unless Na'Vi are going to take Diana away themselves, but then you're looking at a really heavy AP comp over to the side of Na'Vi. 2 supports banned away from Aphelion. We see May on a lot of enchanters, so no surprise here that
Thresh
the Rakan and the Galio is away. Yeah, Thresh is up as well, and it is going to go over to Na'Vi as well, so denying another support on the way of May, but I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Nami or something here by May.
Yeah. Agreed. Anytime I see Ziggs, I'm like, if Thresh is there, it's likely to be the pair. Like, it gives Ziggs that escape that the satchel charge just doesn't offer reliable. Nami wouldn't be too much of a surprise. There's a Diana you mentioned that we were wondering who would end up picking that up. It's going to be on the side of Aphelion. So now, yep, Nami, perfect predictions from Stuart. Smart Stuart, and we're not even in that segment right now. As it's Irelia in the middle lane going into that Diana. So it's Gragas in the jungle, Garen in the top lane, Irelia mid lane, with then Ziggs Thresh bottom lane for Na'Vi. So pretty decent fighting. Like Ziggs ult into Irelia cleanup should do quite a lot of work for Na'Vi.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that Na'Vi have gone for like this double AP comp. You normally see like, okay, if you have some source of AP damage in the jungle or in another lane, you normally see traditional AD carries down in the Dura lane, but instead they're going for the Ziggs instead. They feel like Ziggs is just a better situation, which I feel like this game is definitely going to be about a lot of poke. You got Jace and Varus on the side of Aphelion, and then you got Ziggs as well on the side of Na'Vi. So both teams are going to be poking down as well, but Na'Vi have a really, really strong front line. They have Thresh, they have Garen as well. They have Irelia, which can be a little bit tanky as well. So it's going to be hard for Aphelion, I feel like, to get through that front line of Na'Vi.
Yeah, hard, but then if they manage to put enough damage down, you're kind of looking at Lee Sin, Diana, and Varus cleaning up fairly easily. So if they ever can eat through some of that front line and get to the back line, it could be a tough one for Na'Vi to actually hold on. Like they haven't got the most amount of healing. Like they've got Garen's passive healing, Gragas's passive that's going to heal them up a little bit, but it's not like they're running like a Sona or a Soraka or a Seraphine that can just keep everybody alive while the poke comes in. So I don't know. It's kind of a very different game to the last one, where we saw like the Yumi Gragas composition that was just going in and one-shotting people. This is a much more like pitched battle almost, where you have two teams gonna posture around objectives and try and land as much poke as they can. But we're on to the Rift for game number 2 between Na'Vi and Aphelion. Aphelion are down 0-1 in this series so far. Na'Vi looking to extend their way through the lower bracket after being put there by WREC just yesterday.
One thing I actually want to focus on straight away coming out of this is looking at the runes. Bygate has actually gone for Conqueror, which is quite interesting. You normally see Varuses like Poke Varus go for Summon Ares. So maybe looking towards an AP build. I couldn't quite catch what their starting items were, but again, Twitch chat going for Na'Vi as well. They want all the channel points that they can get from from voting for Na'Vi, and it looks like they have the confidence in Na'Vi as well. But I don't know if this Varus is going to go more towards maybe AP on hit Varus, which we see a little bit with Conqueror. We don't see it too much because you don't really have the items and the runes available for Varus. You know, obviously like Lethal Tempo and Rage Blade, which is from PC League of Legends, but unfortunately that is not in Wild Rift at the moment. So we'll be very interested to see if Bygate is still going to go for the poke damage build. And yeah, he is building the long sword, so maybe it's still poke Varus, but maybe just a different variation, more on hit, and maybe wants to auto attack a lot more.
Yeah, which I actually think is less likely to happen in this game than most. Like, Gragas is just going to flash on you every single team fight. Zig's like zone control with the satchel charge with bombs, his ultimate, the minefield, like that all prevents you from getting close enough to attacking. So I think if it were to go that way, I feel like it's just not going to happen as much. However, Vex is going to roam up towards the top side. Once this minion wave gets pushed in, there's 4 people here. Like, Na'Vi have brought 4 people to the top side, and they've chased Fantasy Note away from his tower. Yekyu already has that stun attempted to lock. Fantasy Note has played this as well as he could and nearly got himself away, but it's not to be. That's the first blood going over to Na'Vi.
I would have loved to see Aphelion here try to do the same on the opposite side of the map, though, but instead they're trying to fight in a 4 versus 2 situation. I mean, Aphelion are just too late to the rotations at the moment, unfortunately, and you can see the Ziggs is alone down in the dual lane. I really feel like Arrogance and 0-2 could have been like, okay, you're making a 4-man play in the top side, let's make the same play in the bot side of the map, let's try and put the Ziggs far behind. But instead, Ziggs is able to push the wave, and unfortunately that's going to be Na'Vi falling a little bit far behind in this, Na'Vi getting ahead, a little bit in this early game with 300 gold lead, for the Garen in that top lane.
Yeah, Aphelion have been able to at least collect some from Ziggs recalling bot side, so now the swap into middle lane just means that this Varus is a slight gold lead of his own, but as they recall, that'll balance itself out, and Na'Vi should once again assume gold lead in this game. Aphelion, we saw that early game in the last game go really well. However, this time it's a hook landing onto 0-2 half health, but they already know that Bygate was due to be in the middle lane any moment, and that is exactly what happens. Bygate is going to show himself. Na'Vi are going to stop the aggression in middle lane for now and just try and wave clear. And this is our most wave clear full lane matchup you're ever going to get, where it's Varus versus Ziggs and everybody just stands there and presses their ability 1, waves die, and nothing else happens around mid lane.
Really early rotation though by Na'Vi to kind of force this lane swap though. I think it's one of the earliest that we definitely seen, about 2.5 minutes into the game. They were like, okay, Ziggs, you're just going to go to the mid lane straight away. Just clear the mid lane as much as possible, which is kind of allowed Thresh to kind of, as you can see, rotate around the map, which is another reason. I mean, we talk about always with the Ziggs and these wave clearing mid champions, but it just allows the supports to roam around the map as well, because you always have that wave clear champion in the mid lane. You can see Scour being able to rotate around the map, and May trying to do the same now as well, trying to get some vision control around the map. They're going to look towards this early dragon. It looks like it's going to be a handshake this game. It's going to be Rift Herald for dragon.
Yeah, the fact that it's mountain doesn't do a massive amount. We're already in a poke battle, so it's like it's not the most impactful dragon, whereas Na'Vi are like, okay, if we can break mid tower, that would be the perfect thing. Fantasy Note, nearly had it, as Vex is able to secure it off 30 health at the end. Good stun is at least going to deny it, but Fantasy Note now drops low. The Ziggs ultimate comes through, and in goes Yekyu again. Will fall for it, though. Bygate managed to survive on the tiniest amount of health, and now Shao is in a little bit of trouble, as that's a double kill over to Diana. 0-2 was picked up 2, and we'll give over 0 for it, although Hydro. He's 1 versus 3. Na'Vi getting a little bit over aggressive here. yeah, that's going to call the end to that fight. 0-2 picked up 2 from that.
Yeah, really, really interesting. I mean, they focused on trying to take the dragon of Felion, and they got the dragon in the end. And Arrogance was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go down to the bot lane and make sure that Fee can't chase this down. And May, in the meantime, was able to rotate up to the Rift Herald in time, and it got them in a 4 versus 4 situation. And the little bit of poke damage that Fancy Note and Baigay can do, just got Na'Vi low enough as well, and were able to get a few kills out of it. So we're looking at a pretty even early game, very, very different to the previous early game where we kind of have standard lanes now, nothing really too crazy. But Felion don't have the same early game gold lead, but they don't really... They have the scaling though, this game. They have the Dyna scaling, they have the Jason, the Varus scaling in this game. So I feel like they're definitely in a better position, but it's just how the mid and the late game is going to go and how they're going to try and counter Na'Vi's kind of aggression and rotations around the map.
And I think so much of what impresses me about Na'Vi and the way that they play comes from Vex and the way that he gets fights started in general. Like we saw it in the last game where he was playing the carry as well, but even on just this, less... Oh, hang on, top side, that's Yeku dying. Not sure how or why that would happen, as Yeku was not even in a position to defend the tower. Really odd, as Ziggs is going to be forced to come up, Hydra is going to cut the wave, but it's too late. That's an odd passage of play from Na'Vi.
Yeah, again, it's a situation where Na'Vi are kind of, not really ready for the rotations for a Felion. They got the first tower of the game, but now it looks like the mid tower is going to go over to the side of Na'Vi. They have the Rift Herald, they have the Satchel Charge as well, but they're not going to be able to take this, it doesn't seem like, unless Hydra just
Hydra needs to
walk up,
step
Satchel
up.
Charge. There it is.
There you go.
Boom.
Yeah, Hydra
nice
will get
and easy
it.
for Hydra.
Yeah, and that's the odd thing there is that entire play would have happened if Yeku hadn't died and if they hadn't really used the Ziggs ult top. So I'm like, you didn't need to commit to those two things. This is why it's really odd to me. It's like Yeku pushes up. It's a good wait from Arrogance. Like Yeku didn't know he was there. But yeah, odd play.
Yeah, really nice play by Arrogance. I mean, you already saw Yeku, already saw 2 people in the Baron lane. So he probably thought there was something fishy happening, but he didn't realize, obviously, Lee Sin was right behind him. And Yeku has a bit of backup this time, though, isn't in a 1 versus 3 situation. It's in a lot of backup, actually.
Hook didn't land, but Yeku's going to go aggressive. He is going to meet Lee Sin, though, eventually. His Arrogance is there. Yeku didn't get the kill onto May, and this has been a very rough game so far from Yeku on this. Irelia has not been able to have the impact that he was hoping for. A couple of targets have got away on just no health to show. Now forced low, forced to flash away, and the flash is over the wall as Fi goes with it. That's the first kill for Hydro in this exchange as the shutdown onto Diana continues. Fee is going to put damage out, will get taken out by Varus, and Baigay is very low as well. Arrogance! Oh, Vex picks up 2 off the explosive cask, and Vex just makes it look too easy.
Yeah, Vex again coming out clutch in this game, showing that he doesn't need to be put on these AD bruiser champions that we like to see him on. He can play different champions as well, maybe something that he has been practicing over the last few weeks. And again, though, it's very scrappy by Na'Vi. You can see Felion here trying to overextend a little bit, trying to get a few kills. See Fee flashing over the wall. He did get 1 kill. It was actually Hydra in the end that got the kill. But look, he's trying to play over-aggressive again. And I guess this is where Conqueror actually helps Baigay a little bit with more auto-attacks and everything as well. Able to get the kill, but yeah, Vex in the end just do enough damage to both the members and using that explosive cast to finish it off. But we're back into fights again. This is a really, really close game. 200 gold difference. There's not a lot separating these teams.
Yeah, Arrogance had connected with the Sonic Wave, was looking to see whether he would be able to find Hydro. That's always the target that you're looking for in a situation like this, is if you get that Ziggs. Oh, Chains of Corruption are going to land onto Vex. That's a big pick off as they've taken out the jungler as the neutral objectives are here. I mean, Felion, if they can disengage now and go down towards the dragon, that's exactly what they need. But that's good damage coming down from Hydro, and going to use the abilities that he has to cut through at least some of the lineup of Felion. Yeku's going to go in, trying to find that low health target on May. Doesn't quite get it at first, and has actually fallen. And once again, it's Yeku reaching for a kill and doesn't get it. Fee. Oh, it doesn't get the kill either for Na'Vi. These kills are just the tiniest bit away from being converted. Now Hydro had to stasis. Arrogance is there. Arrogance will fall. Fantasy Note is trying to get the last hit onto Fee. Yes, sets it up for the kill. Vex, this fight's gone so long that Vex is able to proto belt forward after respawning. Is looking for that body slam. even gets the smite down to try and close the gap, but that'll force Bygaze flash.
This is such a really scrappy game, stress, back and forth fights all over the place. And, you know, credit where credit is due for Aphelion. They're going blow for blow at the moment against Na'Vi. We're still in a really even game. We've got about 1,000 gold lead now for Aphelion, but now the Infernal Drake is up and available. We're going to look back at the team fight very, very quickly before the Infernal Drake. And like I said, it was Yeku jumping in, but he struggled to kill the support. Again, it's the Nami bubble, the wave on top as well that's allowed Made to keep alive. Hydro in the end, just using the bomb to kill out Dyna as soon as the status goes. And again, it's Aphelion coming out on top.
We're back into another fight. Dragon has already gone down to Aphelion though, and even though there was Ziggs bomb damage coming through, he is so low and there's health bars flashing. All of the ultimates are available for Aphelion, but I don't know that they'll be in position here to actually get into the Rift Herald area and try and contest. I think they might just sack this one and they don't even want to go for it.
Yeah, I felt like that was going to happen. I feel like both teams were not going to give the Infernal Dragon up for free, and it was Aphelion in the end, which again, 2 games in a row now, Aphelion have been focusing these dragons, stacking up into the late game as well, but now they have more of a late game comp than last time. As mentioned, you know, you have the Jace, you have the Dyna, you have the Varus, which is going to be getting the extra shields with the Mountain Dragon to kind of help a little bit with the poke from the side of Na'Vi with the Ziggs, but also an Infernal Dragon as well, so being able to deal a little bit of extra damage as well. And now it's going to be about, you know, rotating around the map. It's going to be who can get the pick potential. At the moment, it's 2 towers to 2. Aphelion at the moment have taken down the mid tower and, the mid tower, the top lane and the mid lane. Oh, it is the mid lane tower, sorry. The top lane and the mid lane tower. Then on the side of Na'Vi, they've taken the top lane and the bot lane tower. But it's the catch I was talking about.
Fantasy note, throw everything at it, including the cask, and they're able to take it down. They may need Hydro to clear the middle wave here. Yeah, will. Actually, though, he hits the range minion, so it doesn't really do what Hydro needed it to do at first, but it's enough to back Aphelion away. Turret falls in the bottom lane, and Aphelion are starting to struggle around middle lane, despite the fact they've had these good dragon plays. I feel like, that's Arrogance not going for the kick. I thought he was going to get it on Hydro, but couldn't quite find the angle he was looking for.
I feel like this is 2 games in a row now where Aphelion have taken top lane and bot lane tower, but then they just group around mid lane and they don't really know what to do in this situation. I feel like they're just trying so hard to try and get this mid lane tower. You can see they've got 3 people mid lane. They're not really focusing on, you know, pushing these sideways, which I think is the big difference between these 2 teams. You know, most of the time you'll see the Titans, as we call them, kind of look towards the side lanes, even though the towers have gone down, but to kind of pile that pressure so they can get into the situation. And
another engage, Chains of Corruption, they're going to hit, and that is going to be Mei taken out. And this is part of the problem with not having their mid lane tower, is the engage route is just too easy for Na'Vi to go diving.
Yeah, I really like how Na'Vi were able to focus the mid lane tower, and again, it's the Vex show. This game is going in again.
Vex's Gragas is pretty good. Like, as we said, he's very much known for his Lee being exceptionally good. His Gragas is great too, and they've even stopped the recall on Arrogance there, as well as Hydro is looking for just that last bit of damage, but it's Rift Herald in the middle lane. Now that they've slowed the recalls, they should be able to once again get it with the satchel charge eventually. Although that's going to die before it charges. Didn't actually charge in mid lane. A little bit of a misplay there by Na'Vi.
Yeah, maybe not on the same page there. Maybe trying to, you know, push into the mid lane a little bit too far. But yeah, a bit of a wasted Rift Tower. They could have tried to use it in another lane. But to be fair, they have 3 outer towers down already. So it's really, really hard to kind of play over aggressive and try and get another tower in the end. But yeah, no charge, but Na'Vi at the moment have kind of full control of the map, to be fair. They could try and make these plays across the map. They're pushing in the sideways as well. You can see that their top lane is going to be pushing. On the other side, for Aphelion, Fantasy Note is going to be pushing down in the bot wave. As you can see, Ziggs can just roam around the map, clear the wave really, really easily, and then just go back to the mid lane as well at the same time.
So, something that I know got changed in the patch. We've seen a Hex Drinker already for Arrogance. So going towards more of Malmortius, which did receive buffs in this last patch.
Yeah, did receive a buff. It is 200, well, it costs 200 gold less now. The components are still the same. It's just a combined total when you have the 2 components. It's not a bad item, to be fair. You do get a lot of attack damage. You do get the magic resistance, and you do get that magic resist shield as well. The only problem is, I feel like with Malmortius, is that magic resist shield doesn't scale into late game. It's just the same shield, depending on your other stats and everything. But Arrogance are going to look for a steal here.
Yeah, they held the damage high enough that it wasn't a quick steal, and that's Arrogance Arrogance is now going to get blasted in the pit as 0-2 is in trouble. Forced to stasis, doesn't have flash available as he's just used it and will get taken down. And Na'Vi from the Dragon will likely transition this towards the Baron and look to really ramp up the pressure. Baige does have his ultimate and does obviously have the poke damage from Varus, so this might be a mid lane push into contested Baron.
Yeah, they could try and contest this Baron, but it's going to go down quite quickly, to be fair. It does look like they're going to go for it.
Yeah, they're going to try and put damage down. They have poke, and that's exactly where you want Na'Vi to be. But Na'Vi have turned and burning down the Aphelion backline, and Varus is dead. Arrogance is still dead. Fantasy Note is out of this one. That's an ace split over 2 fights that Na'Vi have managed to secure for themselves, and they're a little bit low health to take the Baron for now, but they'll be able to back away, set up for the Baron once again.
Yeah, they'll take the extra kills in the end. I mean, Aphelion did what Aphelion needed to do there, because you feel like if Na'Vi take the Baron in the end, it's going to be really, really hard. Baige unfortunately misses his ultimate. Fee was able to flash away from the Varus ultimate. You can see Fee can just do Garen things. I mean, that's just what Garen does. He just runs towards you and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to, you know, I don't care about any of your damage or anything. I'm just going to run towards you and just ultimate you and just do a lot of damage. And again, it kind of feels like we're getting a little bit of deja vu from game number 1, where Aphelion has kind of a little bit of an early game advantage. Not as much from this game, but again, it's the mid and the late game that's lacking for Aphelion this game. It's where they kind of struggle a little bit, where they kind of don't really know what to do. And they're getting caught all the time like this as well. And Arrogance is able to escape there, but they're getting picks, Na'Vi. They're playing the vision game very, very well. You can see they've got wards pretty much all over this Baron side of the map, and they're going to try and keep making plays with this Thresh.
So many spell shields in this game. Like there's Edge of Night on Baige. I think Arrogance has obviously has that Hex Drinker as well. I think Na'Vi have some. So everyone's just trying to absorb as much of this engage as possible, and Vex is still finding the engages. That's the funny thing. And so much of Na'Vi's playmaking comes from Vex being able to just find targets, and he just finds these pathways where you're like, okay, somehow you manage to get right onto the AD carry and use the ultimate and blast him away from his team, and suddenly that's a pick gone.
I feels like that just shows the difference between the two teams, to be fair. I mean, credit where credit is due for Aphelion for putting up such a good fight, but yeah. Hitbox of Thresh is very balanced, by the way, and it was is Vex in the end that picks up the blue buff, so we'll be able to get the extra healing. You see, the poke damage for Baige is getting up there. He's doing quite good, as you said. Edge of Night already. I think he has the Serratus Grudge now as well. Probably has the Man Immune completed, but 0-2, Ignite goes down from Fee. He's just like, okay, you're not going to go back today, unfortunately. He's going to go back now, though. The Ignite is going to be taken away from Fee. But again, it's just Na'Vi just focusing around the Dragon. Yeah, you can see here, Edge of Night, Man Immune, and also Serratus Grudge. Has another Serrated Dirk as well, so maybe looking towards maybe a Ghost Blade as a next item. I would love to see like a Guardian Angel or something from Baige this game, just because you're going to get bursted so much from Garen, from Irelia, and from the Gragas as well, that you might need that second life to kind of keep yourself alive, it seems like. But for now, we've slowed down a little bit this game. I feel like Na'Vi don't really want to take the risk, but at the same time, this kind of helps Aphelion, to be fair, because we're at that stage of the game where if Aphelion wins one team fight, they can look to try and push into a lane and potentially end the game with the long death timers.
Yeah, Show just looked like he had caught Baige as Baige's had to flash. If Fee just sets it up for the kill. 15 seconds on Dragon coming up, and Baige, that Guardian Angel would have been helpful if it had it, but the rest of Aphelion, I don't even know whether they would have been able to keep him alive. Good damage down from Fantasy Note as Na'Vi are going to try and push for mid tower. It's gone down faster than Aphelion can react to, and now they'll look for that Dragon as Elder Cloud Dragon has spawned. And aside from Arrogance actually getting a steal, I just don't know that there's damage here for Aphelion to turn this fight back around. Like, Na'Vi are just setting up in the jungle, and they're trying to just bait Arrogance in. If they get rid of the smite, then it's an easy pick off onto the Dragon, and it wouldn't be a 50-50. That's what they've got to be careful of, though.
Yeah, to be careful. You can see that they're trying to zone out the members at the moment. Arrogance is getting really, really close. They do have a ward inside as well, so I believe they can actually see the Dragon at the moment. 5,000 is going to reset now. Arrogance is in the pit.
And the important thing is, because it resets, it means that Na'Vi can just focus on the fight. There's no real threat of it going down in favor of Aphelion. Fee now is going to hold 2 members on the side of Aphelion, and in goes Yeku as well. Will pick up a kill. Finally, he's finding the feet on this Irelia. Now Na'Vi are going to run through the back line of Aphelion. They're basically diving under the tower at this point, getting another kill. And yes, Fantasy Note picks up 1, but it's 5 for 1 overall in favor of Na'Vi. They can push through this mid inhibitor and look for the Baron if they wanted. They may even just be able to end if they've got enough minions here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they're just going to end the game here. The Subject Charge is going to help out as well. They're just going to end the game here. Na'Vi, not the cleanest that we've seen them. We've seen them struggle now against Entropic. Now they've kind of struggled against Aphelion as well. They will take this series 2-0, and they will be playing against Team Dark in that lower bracket in the next rounds.
Yeah, that's not the cleanest of games from Na'Vi. I think game 2 was a little bit better than game 1 that we saw. But Na'Vi looking very much more convincing in the mid and later parts of the game than they did in the early game. But I mean, so much of it comes from the fact that like Fee and Vex just jump into these fights and get anything that they can done.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like you said, it's more the mid and the late game that Na'Vi were able to come out on top. Their early game is a little bit of a struggle, to be fair, and that's something that they're definitely going to be working on in the coming weeks before they face Team Dark in that next round of the lower bracket. But yeah, I think it's more to do with Fee and Vex just jumping in. You can see in the end that Fee was able to just run around and do Garen things, to be fair, just one-shot everyone and be in a full tank as well at the same time. I feel like Vex didn't have kind of the same impact this game as what he did last game, maybe because he didn't have a Yumi, but he still made some really, really great plays this game. His explosive cast and his body slams as well throughout this entire game was so clutch.
Yeah, I think one thing that perhaps I would love to see Na'Vi shore up a little bit is, and maybe this is just this game on Irelia thing for Yeku, but like there were a lot of fights where Na'Vi were like stretching to try and get a kill, and it just wasn't happening. I think there was like 3 or 4 times where Yeku just couldn't quite find the finishing blow on a fight. They were able to turn it back around though when Fee was getting further into the fight, when Vex had a little bit more damage, when Hydra was landing a little bit more damage. It set them up beautifully. Like the Aurelias started getting kills the later they go, but I mean those windows are basically the ones that are going to get punished against the likes of Game Lord and Queso and the top teams like that. So like we saw Na'Vi look really good for the majority of the WREC series. I would say they looked maybe as expected, maybe a little worse than expected in this series, but still made it look fairly comfortable when they got into the mid part of the game.
Yeah, I think they did make it look comfortable in the end as well. You can see the scores in the end. Again, Vex 6-1 and 6 on this Gragas. I'm not going to be surprised to see. Probably Ziggs is going to be doing the most damage in the entire game, because Ziggs is a champion that always has the most damage, and yeah, 28,000 damage. No one even really comes close to Ziggs. It just shows you the priority of Ziggs is starting to slowly rise back up again. I mean, we saw last year, I was talking a little bit to Xcander yesterday on the broadcast as well. I was mentioning about how Ziggs was such a high priority. It was either red side banned or first pick last year, just before and at Horizon Cup as well. And he kind of went down on the list, but now he's starting to rise up back again. But before we saw him in the mid lane, now we're seeing him in a dual lane as well. And it's obviously a segment we had at the start of the day as well, talking about highlights about these AP majors as well, which has been kind of the main thing of this year, to be fair, and of this Wild Rift EME Championship has been about them AP majors.
Yeah, and I think so many of the shiny new toys have either been nerfed or figured out a little bit more. Like the Morgana came in, got a bit of a buff, bit of a nerf, and finds herself on the ban list. The Corki's been a lot on the ban list as well. So Ziggs, he's still as strong as ever. And let's take a look at that play of the game. We're finding kind of like these dual mage compositions a little bit more now, especially for Na'Vi with that Gragas jungle as well.
Yeah, the Gragas jungle you'll see here as well. This is where the Elder Dragon was, and this was right at the end of the game. This is where Fee could just jump in onto the backline and not really do much. But unfortunately, the Baige was in a little bit of a struggle. You can see this game that he didn't really have the support that he needed to kind of protect himself. And that's kind of the struggle with someone like Varus, when you don't have the mobility of, say, for example, someone like a Vayne or a Kai'Sa or even a Xayah as well. When you pick this Varus, when you're against the likes of Garen, Irelia, it's so hard for you to be able to kind of stay safe really and keep yourself alive, because when them bruisers jump onto you, when you don't have any mobility on Varus, when you don't have any protection, it's going to be very hard for them to stay alive. And that was the last team fight before Na'Vi were able to take the series 2-0.
It was a pretty solid team fight performance from Na'Vi. I find it fascinating how different all of the metas are for Wild Rift. Like, I watch a lot of the different regions that we have, and Europe, we have a very specific meta around these majors. Like, I know North America are playing a lot of stuff like TF in the middle lane and like snowballing other lanes. They play a lot more Riven. Like, I've watched Brazil and they play a lot of different stuff. Like, Korea are like hammering Yuumi at the moment, a whole lot of things. So for me, it's fascinating to see like how our meta plays out in comparison. And that's why we're all looking forward to the Icons Global Championship later in the year, where we finally get to see all of the metas clash against each other. That's what we're playing for at the moment. Like, these teams are playing towards that final spot, the first spot, I should say, in Barcelona finals to eventually determine who's going to the Icons Global Championship. We have to crown an MVP of this series, which I think we both know who it's going to be. We're going to go to an interview first, so we'll keep you in suspense for a little bit longer. Carmeline is with Show, I believe, from Na'Vi.
Everyone. So yeah, indeed, I'm here with Show, support for Na'Vi, and you might also know him for all the bits of the interviews that we can see here and there. So welcome, Show.
Thank you.
Okay, so congratulations for that victory today. Despite losing yesterday, you've made it today 2-0. I wanted to ask you, how are you and the entire team feeling about this?
Honestly, I think the team is kind of a little bit depressed after the loss against the WREC. We didn't play so good today, but in the end, after maybe some off days, I think we should be fine.
What happened today? Because you have like brilliant moments in like mid to late game, but the early was kind of messy. How was the communication? What was going on in there?
I mean, the communication was like really bad compared to yesterday. We didn't really speak that much. And like, I think, the communication was just not so great, especially in the early game. And they always got leads out of it. So, that's mainly it.
Oh, I see. But I mean, you can recover. We know that we've seen you just coming back from war situations. Now, my last question is, what are your expectations moving forward? What do you want to do? What are your ideas? Do you think you're going to be like, do well versus WREC? Or are you going to be doing what you did today, which was not so good?
I think, we should be able to do good. I think we should be able to at least get top 2 if we at least play good and we have good communication. And I mean, I hope we at least can go to Barcelona and do good.
Okay, we hope to see you there. Thank you very much, Show, for the interview, and I'm sending it back to the casters. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmeline, for the interview with Show. Interesting to hear about the communication, and I think that's one of the tough things about a turnaround from playing yesterday with a tough loss into today is like there's not a lot of time to fix stuff. If there are glaring issues, it's hard to fix it. I think for Na'Vi, like losing to WREC is obviously heartbreaking for them, but if you're going to lose to a team and it's a better team, then that's, tells you there are less problems to fix. Like if you got upset and your playstyle is just like not working, that's harder to fix overnight. So I'm glad to see Na'Vi could kind of bounce back well today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you mentioned, we're going to be seeing them hopefully kind of go through the lower bracket. You can see the upper bracket here as well. We've still got to wait for the WREC.GG formulation and Viv Esports. But going down to lower bracket, you can see that Team Dark will be facing off against Na'Vi in that next round. And like I said, they didn't have a lot of time to turn it around, but they did turn it around in the end. So now they're going to have a little bit of time to kind of practice and kind of prepare for Team Dark, because the problem is that there's only one spot in this whole qualifier. And if, you know, all these top teams really want so bad to be able to get to the next stage, the finals in Barcelona.
Well, tomorrow we have 2 more series in the lower bracket as Team Queso take on Blows and Zero Zone take on Control. Some really exciting matches there as well. We've got the Spanish Showdown, first of all. And then perhaps the one matchup that I kind of think might go the opposite way. I think a lot of people will be expecting Zero Zone to take it, but Control, Kamalto, I mean, I have just these visions of his support play from last week and how good the Galio was. And I'm like, there's a chance. And it might be around Kamalto. That was last week's MVP. Let's take a look at this week's MVP from this series. I get the feeling it's going to be Vex for 2 Gragas performances, and it's going to be full of highlights of him blowing people up on this Gragas from game 1.
Yep, I feel like it is going to be, and it is Vex indeed. 12.5 KDA on this Gragas performance, really showing up huge. Again, like you said, this first game was just him one-shotting pretty much everyone. You can see May there. Unfortunately, the dead fish in the back line, and throughout the whole game, both the games, he was able to just roam around the map, make the plays for the team as well. And you can see, life of an AD carry, Stress. I hope you understand how it feels now to be an AD carry, and in the end he was able to rotate around the map and make these huge plays.
I've actually totally stopped buying Stasis unless I'm against Zed and only play Proto Belt now, because I'm like, I'm gonna get blasted one way or the other if I line it up when I Stasis. And you can see exactly what happens when like Vex gets his hands on an AD carry or anything like that. He just immediately one-shots them. Always seems to be able to find the fights that he was looking for, and I think he really is one of those junglers that we've been putting a lot of respect to and a lot of credit. Carmeline's going to join us for the end of the show as well. First thing that springs to my mind is tomorrow, Queso, Blows. I'm going to force you to pick. You got to pick somebody. Who's winning that matchup?
I'm just kidding. I am not muted now. So I don't know. I mean, my heart says Queso. But Blows is like the team that represents the people, you know, like that team that you didn't expect to make it so far, but they've made it. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an emotional battle for those of the viewers that are pulling for the Spanish teams. I'm hoping for Queso bringing us more Olaf Yumi. Stuart, you and I had so much fun with that game last week. So what's your thoughts on Queso and Blows?
Yeah, I think Queso coming in as kind of the favourites of that match for sure, and maybe we'll see some more Yumi as well. We've seen, the Yumi Olaf from Team Queso, like you said. We've seen Yumi Gragas as well. So we've seen some different iterations now. We've seen Yumi banned a few times as well. So slowly but surely, teams are practicing Yumi more and more. We're starting to see the real power of Yumi in this meta.
I'm waiting for the solo queue special of Yumi Master Yi, but I don't think anyone's going to unleash that on the WREC, at least not for now. We've got one more day of games this week, and that is going to be tomorrow. We've already talked you through how important they are, as the final 4 teams in the lower bracket have one more opportunity to advance. Thank you very much for joining us today. We will catch you same place, same time tomorrow.